you getting yourself ready for our show?
Everybody, Jigs and Bigs, another Tuesday, a fantastic week here. We've got a good one for you lined up, guys. This week on Jigs and Bigs, Sean is in the salt, and it's roast beef versus his rudder. I'll explain. There's a whole lot of explanation that has to happen here. Jigs and Bigs tourney is right around the corner, and if you're not ready for it, get ready for it because it's happening ASAP. This week in Just the Tip, we've got a question that came in about efficiency. We're talking about being efficient when it comes to boat space and gear. This week in our FTG segment, you know what time it is. It is lake lice season, everybody, and there's no shortage of news about that. All sorts of tourney stuff going on. No guests this week. Instead, we'll be debuting a new lure spotlight segment. This comes from our survey, and I think you're really going to like it. Buckle up, shit bags. This week's episode is going to kick you right in your freshly bleached starfish. You guys don't want to go too far. We will be back with more. Well, right after this. Get ready. I love it. I absolutely love it, man. It's a good time.
That's how we're starting the week, huh?
That's how we're starting the week. You put a lot of effort into making sure that this product that we put together is right for people. That it's right for the presentation is there. So there's enough people that are listening to this shit. We need to be concerned. You know what I'm saying? And I want it to be good. I want it to be great. And I think we have that for you guys this week. I genuinely do. Sean, how are you?
I'm confused. Are you talking about this week's episode or your freshly bleached starfish?
I'm talking about this week's episode. Okay. I will say this. During that intro, it took every ounce of my ability to not explode into laughter because there was one point where, and this is moments after you had just said, oh yeah, we got some new internet stuff here. It might be kind of iffy on my end. And your picture kind of froze for a second, but you were like going for a bite of your ice cream and you looked like you were good, like a savage. You were like, ah! It was great. It was great.
I look like a savage because I am a savage.
It was good. Oh no, it was one of those situations where, like, you snap the picture at the wrong time, and the dog looks like he's gonna kill somebody at the. Yes, it was fantastic. It was so good. We got jig heads in the house. We got gravy fishing. We got fishing in the sticks. We got Nelson in the house. We got who else we got in here? I think that's the three of them we got in the comments anyway. There's a handful that are floating out there, skulking, if you will, around the fringe just to see what this shit show is all about. Man, what a week. It just an unbelievable week. You had a blast. You were a nice little change of scenery for you. Why don't we go ahead? Why don't we start there?
We'll start with me this week?
Yeah, we'll start with you.
We're going to fire it up. I went on vacation. We had a little vacation planned out to Cape Cod. It was a little bit abbreviated because of my son's work schedule.
Yep.
I had initially planned on finishing up the EKF tournament last Saturday, getting him to work.
Yeah.
And then when he got out of work later in the evening, I was going to pick him up. We were going to drive to the Cape at night when there's no traffic.
Yeah, there you go.
I was so completely exhausted from the EKF business that I picked him up from work and said, we're sleeping in. Fuck this.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man.
Yeah, we left really late on Sunday, and that was that. And we got out there, rented a nice little cottage in Dennis, which is mid-Cape. Yes, there's a town named Dennis on Cape Cod. Cape Cod has some interesting town names.
Yeah, they do.
We got this little house. Now, here's I think the only complaint I had about this house was there were 2 bedrooms, two twin beds in the room the boys used, and then my wife and I had a queen size bed, which normally would be fine, but there was no box spring.
Oh,
so getting in and out of the bed for me was quite difficult with
Was it
the knees.
Was
what
it
the fuck?
like a platform bed where there was like a platform that it sat in, like that support, so it wasn't on the ground, or was this just a mattress on the floor?
No, it was.
Were you staying in a crack den?
No, they are getting more prevalent on the Cape, but no. It was just a normal bed. I mean, it had a frame.
Yeah.
It had everything, just no box spring.
Yeah.
So
it
instead
was
of
a
being
platform
whatever
style.
2 feet off the floor, it was only like a foot and a foot,
Yeah.
and it was really annoying. Other than that, location was good. The house was clean. Everything was good. Actually, I do have 1 second complaint. The air conditioner in the front of the house was the equivalent of a jet engine exhaust, a fighter jet.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to turn the thing off when I was sitting and having breakfast, because as I would be eating my whatever breakfast, I'd hear just, and I got yelled at. My wife's like, it's hot outside. I said, I understand that, but I'm going deaf. Like,
yeah.
fuck. So
hot out.
sure I made sure not to bring any freshwater fishing stuff. So
Yeah.
my wife was really excited about that. More family stuff, family activities. I did bring my saltwater stuff. Now I have 2 inshore combos.
Yeah.
And I have a surf casting combo on a 10-foot rod. The odd thing about these setups, for all 3, I run braid on them.
Yeah.
Which is
not what you do.
Yeah. For spinning combos.
Yep. Now,
and
I'm curious. Do you use a fluorocarbon leader, or do you just straight braid? Huh?
Well, I don't use any leaders for lures. I tie it straight to the braid. But for bait rigs, there's all sorts of made up bait rigs.
Yeah, there's
pre-made. So I went with that.
Yeah, there you go.
Basically, I fool around until I get nothing, and then I call Nelson, and he tells me what to do, because he's smart with this shit, and I'm not. I'm trying to think what day it was. It was Tuesday, maybe? Tuesday. I went to a bait and tackle store.
Yep.
I believe it's in Yarmouth. Called Riverview Bait and Tackle. It's right near Bass River.
Okay.
I'm going to say all these names and locations. Folks, if you're not familiar with the Cape, go ahead and look them up on a map. You have a good time with that. Amuse yourselves.
Definitely.
The original Riverview Bait and Tackle burned down about 20 years ago, and they relocated to the other side of the river. Since that time, I've always gone there. I mean, it's just one of the places I stop in at the Cape.
Yep.
Never had any major connections there with anybody. Just went in, bought tackle, and left. I got into a conversation. I said, listen, I'm currently in a tournament that's multi-species, i.e. the Chronic Trips tournament.
Definitely,
It's got saltwater. And I said, I need some advice. I am not looking to blow up anybody's spots. I just want to catch a small striped bass, a schoolie striped bass, and possibly a shark. And I said, I think I know where I'm going for the shark. I'll get to that in a minute. But the striped bass, I said, it used to be 20, 25, 30 years ago, a lot of the rivers would get small schoolies in them that are on the Cape. And they would also have juvenile bluefish that are referred to as snapper blues. They're little tiny, under 12 inches. So that would have checked off 2 boxes in Chronic Trips right there.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned the snapper blues, the employee there said, well, dude, the temperatures have risen in the ocean so much on the Atlantic that the snapper blues are just all north now. There's no rivers with them anywhere on the Cape. And I said, really?
Oh, no kidding.
They were so common. Now it's too warm for them.
Yeah.
So we keep talking, and he's asking me about the tournament and this other tournament and that tournament. Finally, I just happened to mention, I said, I direct for this, that, and I said, Massachusetts kayak bassing. And he goes, well, wait a minute. And he makes a face. He goes, do you know Ken Wood? I said, yes, I do. Ken's my director. He's the founder. He goes, yeah, I know Ken. I bought his kayak off him. I bought one of his old Jacksons off him.
Oh, no shit.
Oh, that's awesome. At that point, he then pulled me aside and said, okay, for striped bass, here's a lure and here's where you go.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Which was great, yeah. So I ended up going there. It was a beach right next to a beach we planned on going to, and there was a little bit of a walk involved on the beach. There was a particular bit of structure, shall we say, that he told me to look out for.
Yep.
And we went there, and the first cast I made, I completely snapped my lure off that I just bought, and it got one cast, gone out of here. Like, fuck this, fuck. My second and third cast were uneventful. My fourth cast, I hooked into a striped bass. Yeah,
Nice,
that was
dude.
awesome.
Hold on.
Got the stripe. Yep.
Worth it.
Got the striper on the board for chronic trips. The next couple nights, I think it was Wednesday and Thursday, I went to my pre-planned destination for. It was a beach. It was a beach I basically grew up on.
Yeah,
we would go to vacation there every summer, and I remember some of my
Chili
older
Dog
cousins.
Beach, right?
What?
Chili Dog Beach.
Yeah, of course. Is there any other beach on the
Exactly.
Cape?
It's the only one.
Yeah, we. I remember my older cousins catching sandbar sharks there, brown sandbar sharks, and they were small. They weren't big. And the first night I went there, I just basically used a surf caster to get the bait out. I was using cut squid, and I got nothing. But
Yeah.
there was so much action. It was the equivalent of bluegills nibbling at the bait and ripping the bait apart. But I did bring the bait back at one point, and it was the squid's fins on the tail end of it, and it had a perfect little bite radius in there. And I'm like, what the hell did this? Like a small shark?
Yeah.
Well, the answer is kind of. The next night I went out there, I brought the inshore rods, and I hooked them up with rigs I was using in North Carolina to catch bait fish per Nelson's instructions. I put the squid on there, cast it out, first cast. I got a, it looked like a cod, but Nelson said it was a northern kingfish.
Okay.
All right. They're very similar body shape to cod. I thought I had a cod too. I'm like, boom, I could check that box. No, I can't. It wasn't a cod. Brought that in, immediately set up the surf caster with a shark rig.
Yep.
And then fired that guy out in the surf, and then went back to where I was going, the small river that came in. Went back there with the inshore rod, threw it out, set the hook, got nibbled again, set the hook. I bring it about maybe halfway in. It wasn't big. I figured it was another kingfish, and I yelled to my son. I said, "Hey, reel this thing in for me. I got to go check the other rod."
Yep.
He reels it in. We both stare at it. It's a shark.
Nice, dude. That's awesome, though.
14-incher, baby.
Dude, there you go.
I'm not talking about catching Tommy cats and bluegills down the pond, Chief. I'm talking about sharking. So
Nice. Nice.
So that was shark number one. And then I had an issue to deal with the surf caster. The tide was coming in. It was putting the weight where I didn't want it to, and blah, blah, blah. And I went back there, made another cast. Shark number two. That was all the action for the night. We took off. It was awesome.
That's the way to do it.
Very exciting. So that was our Cape Cod fishing adventure. I'm not going to get into all this stuff. We did the normal stuff. You go to Cape Cod, you go on the trampolines, you go on the go-karts, you play some mini golf, you go to an arcade, which Cape Cod is very good about old school arcades.
Yeah, they are.
So you will walk in and you will find a newer game right next to a stand-up centipede or millipede or dig dug. They're there. You just gotta look for them. We ate a ton of great food. I have a new favorite dish at Max. Let me tell you, I didn't tell you about this. This was, oh boy.
This is exclusive shit.
Beef.
Okay.
No, it was not shit. This is the opposite. Potato crusted cod sitting in a small pool of heavy cream with bacon in it. And then there were, I don't know if they were mussels. I think it was mussels, some sort of mollusk, mussels with corn in them. This was
fucking mussels.
Out of this world. We need to go to the Cape during the fall. I know you have been averse to getting out to the Cape with me. We have to go out on the Cape. You have to try this potato crusted cod. This was no bullshit. I've been staring at it for years, looking at it. I'm like, that looks good. And then I always get something else. And I got it this time. And it probably helped. My wife was like, well, let's try like 5 different things. So she tried, they had like a build your own fish tacos. So we got that.
Beautiful.
Phenomenal.
Yep.
Fucking phenomenal. I always get a little bowl of chowder there. Good. Little, sometimes it could be a little bit on the thin side. I like a thicker chowder, but whatever. There were some potatoes. What were they? Parsley and butter, I think. Phenomenal. And we pounded that, man. And then they make sushi that I can eat. So
that's
hit
good
shit
news.
Hard. Yeah.
A question for you, Sean, real quick. When it comes to chowder, how do you prefer it?
There's only one way.
Damn, boy, he's thick. Boy, that's a thick-ass boy. Damn.
That is true. That is a true fucking statement.
It is.
We hit that shit hard. So Cape Cod was a blast. we're back now, and I got back just in time to completely do all the, rearrange and re-rig my Slayer because all of my gear was still on the Ultimate.
Oh yeah.
And go to sleep just in time for I say a double tournament. It was actually really a quadruple because there's there was a year long, the Chronic trips on top of MAKB West number 5 up
Yep.
at Cheshire, up in Nibblerville,
Yep.
the great 2022 Nibbler off.
Oh, I got all the info about that today.
Yes, you did. You were fishing with the right sources today, and then and on top of that it was MAKB's Catch 'Em All Summer Brawl. So this was a fun tournament. We all I think everyone had a limit an hour in. One thing we did notice, there was eelgrass floating everywhere. Eelgrass does not float.
Yeah.
I found out after the tournament, Bill Galekis had mentioned to, I guess it started a conversation with a homeowner. They said the lake had been treated with herbicide, possibly algicide as well the day before. We did not know that.
Yeah.
I had no idea. So all this eelgrass is floating around. It was real difficult
For those that don't know, like seeing floating eelgrass like that is the equivalent to having like gum jammed in the locks.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Bunch of savages in this town.
Yeah, it was not good. I mean, whatever the herbicide does to the eelgrass, it fucks the roots up. Now, I don't know if I ever mentioned this years ago, and I did not know I could not do this. I would not do it now. But years ago, while a local pond had been treated, and I found all the eelgrass floating around, I figured it was a winter die-off. Like it was late fall or mid-fall when I went out there.
Yeah.
So it was on my buddy's bass boat, and I just threw some in the live well. Now, you're not supposed to transport plants or animals in our state. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
All right. But I brought it home, nursed it back to health in a fish tank, and the next thing you know, my eelgrass was like 8 feet long. It was ridiculous. It took so well to the fish tank and the way I do things with fish tanks. And I had to clip it. Like I had to constantly clip the eelgrass because it would go up the tank and then like crisscross at the top and it was blocking the light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can't have that. Yeah.
That being said, there was eelgrass everywhere. The bite was even tougher than it was last year. Hitting 14 inches with a fish was tough. It was tough. I think we ended up putting in throughout 22 people. I think there was 22 people and I think 189 entries or something like 180 plus entries.
Oh, wow.
And I think 5 of them were over 14 inches.
God damn, dude.
It was tight, but it was exciting. You know what I mean? Like
one of those 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of those 5 was a decent fish.
Let me get it. Well, there was 2 of them. I caught one of them and then introduced somebody else to the bigger one. I had something to say. Now, usually we've talked on the show before about for the Western Division, Nelson and I, we've kind of taken to trying to bring Tim O'Keefe and Russ Hatch.
Yep.
They're best buddies, and anytime I get a chance to kind of like show them something I'm going through that I can as a director, like, hey, here's a situation that's popped up. Here's how I'm handling it. It's just I try to do that. It's mentorship, right? It's ensuring that this division in one shape or form will be around years from now.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And I had something to tell Tim, and I brought him over, and I said, hey, look what happened, blah, blah, blah. It was something logistical with Fishing Chaos. And I had just caught the biggest fish turned in at that point, like maybe 5-10 minutes before. I caught the fish, caught another one, got a text message, called Tim over. He was near me. And he drifted a little bit away from me, kept fishing, but still close enough. And all of a sudden I hear, holy shit. And his drag is fucking screaming. I'm like, what do you got, a pike? Tighten your drag, dude. He tightens it up a little bit. No, it wasn't a pike. The bass I had just caught was 17 3/4. The bass he was on dealing with now, which I had to politely play photographer for, was fucking 20 1/2 inches. I'm like, fuck. I just called. I mean, congrats to Tim, and chances are I would have never caught that fish, but
Definitely.
I did bring him to the area where that fish was
It's true.
so I could show him something. I'm like, fuck. Yeah, and we had something different go on for this tournament, which is kind of neat. We turned the scoreboard off the whole day, so we were fishing like it was a big boat event. I made sure to to get feedback after the event to see how people liked it. Now, shooting myself in the foot, one thing I didn't know was that the MAKB Angler of the Year standings, which are also on Fishing Chaos, are constantly live.
Yeah.
So if it's the middle of a tournament and somebody's in first place, even though the tournament's not over, it shows them as getting first place points. So you can see what position people are in. You just don't know what they have.
Yeah, exactly.
And at like, I don't know what time it was, 12:31, I get a text message from Scott Rhodes. He had to leave early. I said, hey, just text me when you're leaving. He said, okay, and he texts me. And then I get a second text saying, hey, man, John Medina just moved in front of you. And I'm like, did I leave the scoreboard on? I turned it off. I know I did. What the fuck? And I go into Fishing Chaos and I can't see anything. And I sent him a message back saying, how do you know that? What the fuck? And he goes, the Angler of the Year standings live. And I said, oh. So I went into that and looked, and there was John had just moved. I was in second place now, so I saw that, and John was in first. John held on.
Does it give you the whole leaderboard?
No, you have to look. You look at each. It says Angler of the Year standing. So it'll say, like, I think Nelson's in first place right now. So it'll show event, whatever. It goes by how you finish in an event. So whatever your first place finish in, it's not chronological. It'll go first place, 600 points. If you got another first place, 600 points. And then it'll show, okay, second place, 594, because it's 6-point increments.
Gotcha, okay.
So all of a sudden I looked at my personal, whatever was best, the 5 events.
Yep.
And there I was with 594 for the current event. So I was in second place. And then I looked at John's and he was at 600. And I didn't catch, I think I got one more upgrade. It was like, seriously, it was so bad. I had that 17 3/4 and then 4 fish at 13 inches were the rest of my bag. And that was a decent bag. Everyone, if you broke 65 inches, you had a shot at winning that thing.
That's wild.
So the final score was John had 71, I had 70.5, and I think Nelson got 68.5, something like that. I think I beat him by 2 inches, and then who was fourth? There was some shuffling. We had an issue where Ray Sparky Figueroa thought that he had deleted a pickerel he accidentally labeled bass, but it was in there this morning when I went and did all the judging. And when I denied that pickerel, it dropped him, because even though it was like the pickerel was 14.25, and there was his next biggest bass was 13 something. Losing that inch dropped him.
It was that tight.
That's how tight it was. It dropped him from 4th to like 8th.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was a great contest. Everyone had a blast. Everyone caught fish. Few newcomers out there, and we had a good time. And then when we got to 99 afterwards for our little post event, award ceremony, everything. And this was by design. I made sure to tell everyone, like, go to this afterwards. We're not, because there were 2 separate ramps, and they were both tight. We can't take up the space.
Yeah,
we're doing this at 99. The turnout for this, which every tournament director wants to see as many people as possible,
definitely,
at the post-event gathering, right? There were 22 people that actually fished. 17 people showed up for this.
That's it, which is great. That's a good. That's a good return.
That's 3 more than that KBF after event that I went to at. I don't even know where it was. Where the hell was it? It was
Champlain.
Maine. No, Champlain.
Champlain.
KBF and day 1 had 14 people at the gathering
out of 80 anglers.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
ridiculous. We got 17 out of 22.
Yeah.
Everybody but one person who had a prior engagement stuck around after the giveaway. We all had drinks, chit-chatted, bullshitted, whatever.
Yeah.
We had a good time with it.
Cool.
I will say this. I went around the room and I said, how did you feel about this? I said, keep the scoreboard off, turn it back on, or I don't give a shit, were my 3 options, right? And I told you this, and we both laughed about this today. I'm going to tell everybody else. Nelson, I'm going to fire you right under the bus right now. I got to Nelson's table, and he was talking with Dan Regan, and he had said, I said, Nelson, what'd you think? He goes, I was just telling Dan. He goes, with the scoreboard off, he goes, I literally fished every minute, every cast, like it was my last day on this planet. It was great. And I said, yeah? I said, you finished just start to finish balls out? He goes, yeah. I go, well, you want it off or on? He goes, no, turn it back on. I go, what the fuck, dude? Like, You just gave me the most ringing endorsement I've ever heard
To keep it.
for keeping it off.
Yeah.
And then that happened. So, I mean, there'll be discussions. The next event, it's got to stay off, and I'm going to leave the turn-in time open
Yeah.
for another time because we are all going to be spread out on the Berkshire Mountains, and there's like some people might have signal and some won't. So I'm just
It's true.
keeping it off.
Yeah.
Fuck it. That's the way it's going to be. And then it'll probably be on for Lake Ashmere to wrap our season. But for an experiment, it really kept the intensity up. I have to say that. Like,
yeah.
it was something else. Like, it was fish until your arm falls off, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, it was good stuff. That on the other tournament, the Catch 'em All Brawl. So that is simply anything over 12 inches
Yep.
gets put in and totaled up. Now, we had figured with this lake and so many small fish last year, everybody had, there was so many 12-inch fish and up that this would turn out to be good.
Sure.
It didn't. It really didn't because we got a ton of fish between 8 and 11 inches. And then, like I said, everybody seemed to have 13s, but not as many 12s. It just wasn't. Maybe we divvied them up between ourselves. And if there was one person on this lake, they could have stood a chance against all the guys on the east, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
That being said, congratulations to my friend and yours. A man who can be summed up in one word. Dude. Nate Chagnon, winner of the Summer Catch 'em All Brawl for MAKB. He put up 200, just shy of 270. I know where he was fishing. I'm not going to broadcast it. Good for him. He did great.
Yeah.
Congrats to him. I believe Derek Brundle finished second right behind him. I don't think any of us even cracked the top 5 or 10. I don't know what happened. Oh, top 5. Maybe I got 8th, 7th. I don't fucking whatever. 6th. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think I did the best out of all of us, and I think I got maybe 6th. But it was tough all over the state yesterday. And I will make one mention of one thing. Now, we've discussed that I generally, as in always, I don't talk shit about fishing to people. I just don't. All right?
Yeah.
Unless I'm talked shit.
Unless there's warranted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday, we had 2 ramps. There was a middle basin with a ramp and a northern basin. I had signed up for the northern basin, as did Nelson. But because we're directors, we have to do captain's meetings. And I said, Nelson, just give the captain's meeting at the north. I'll go over to the middle ramp. I said, if we get in the water a couple minutes late, just keep an eye on my boat, whatever. Well, the problem was I woke up about 15 minutes later than I thought.
Oh,
so I called him on the way. I said, dude, I'm going straight to the middle basin with my boat. I'm going to give the briefing. I'm going to turn around, go up to the north basin, and I'll throw in. I said, you don't have to worry. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I did that. I said hello to everybody in the middle basin, gave them the rules. One new guy was there. We went over a bunch of stuff, and then I drove up to the north basin, and Nelson was in the process of giving his briefing right in front of the ramp. So he's got 14 or 13 people in a circle around him, and he's preaching on. And I pull up with fucking Black Label Society blaring out my windows, and I turn the volume off, and everyone looks at me, and I smile. I roll the window down, and I go, perfect Larry Bird. I said, which one of you motherfuckers is coming in second today? Mike Williams quickly responds, you are. And he was right.
He was right. He nailed it. Nice. Oh.
Yep. So that ended up with, like I said, John Medina finished first. I finished second. Nelson finished third. I think Tim O'Keefe took fourth with his giant. And then Lou Adams, friend of Jerry Multi-House, took fifth. So things kind of rolled once Sparky lost his pickerel, and he lost the fourth place money, but he still had the lunker pickerel, which was an amazing 14 1/4.
Yeah,
that place was not.
No,
it was rough yesterday with the treatment.
So. It wasn't a bunch of quality. No,
it was nothing. No. It was nibblers and then 2 fish over 15 inches.
Yep.
Mine and Tim's, which were caught 20 minutes apart and fucking 20 feet apart.
Yeah.
So that was it was a fun day, and 2 more events for the season. We're moving on into August. We got all sorts of other tournaments coming up. Got a fun weekend this weekend.
Yeah.
Myself, Nelson, John Medina, and I have to talk to Nelson. We had one other person asked to jump in with us, and you.
Yep. Yeah.
We're heading down to Connecticut.
Yep.
We're going to play in the Salt this weekend, so we're going to have a very a very fun recording next weekend, and it should be a blast. That was my week, my friend. What did you do? You had some shit going on.
My week was kind of nuts. So I edited last week's show. I got that all set up, and then my plan was I wanted to go out. I think it was Tuesday. I think that was my plan. Was Tuesday. I was going to go out, listen to the show, and fish and do my thing. And I go out, and there's I'm because my goal. This was when was this, Sunday? Remember last week's show recording? I mentioned how I bent my rudder, trying to maneuver the trailer around this. My street is insane right now. There are the parking situation is just ridiculous, but it's been like basic training for dealing with tight quarters. So I feel like as far as my skill set and being able to manage this trailer with a wicked short tongue and deal with all this other stuff and get it in relatively drama free is good. That's the silver lining. But like I said, I bent my rudder last week, and my goal was I wanted to just go out, drop the boat in the water, and just casually go and give it a send and see how bad it was. Well, it was awful. It was. I'm not saying that it wasn't usable, but it definitely took some significant adjustment. There was a little bit of wind where I was fishing, and it was enough to keep me having to reposition my boat so that I could effectively fish. I did manage to get one, and I was going to suck it up and just fish the whole day. And then I got a phone call. I got a phone call from my wife, and she goes, my youngest daughter, Delaney, has decided that this is the year this summer, she's just going to sleep in, almost as if she's getting paid for it, And it's I'm talking, this kid has slept in later than I have. You would think she was out clubbing till 3:00 in the morning. You know what I mean? She's 12.
How do you know she's not?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe, who knows these days? So I'm like, what is going on? So I get a phone call. My wife's like, I can't, she's not answering her phone, she's not answering her phone. Why don't you, do you mind heading over there? And I was like, fine, I'll go. I'll deal with it. I go and I start pedaling over to the launch again. No. I take this back. This was Tuesday. I meant to go. Let me back up. I couldn't launch on Tuesday. I had to go on Wednesday. And this is why. They treated the pond that I've been fishing for, they said problem weeds on the sign. And it prohibited fishing, boating, and swimming for the day of. That's what it was. So this is Wednesday I'm on the water. And I get out. I get over to launch. My wife calls back. She's like, oh, she's up. I'm like, well, I just pulled the boat out of the water. I'm not relaunching it. I'm like, no way. That's just not happening. So I pack everything up. I head home, go through the rest of my week and everything else, knowing full well. In fact, did we confirm our plans that night, Wednesday night? Tim and Mike and Cindy were at my trivia night at Nathan Bill's. And that's where we solidified the plans for Sunday. And it was a good time. We got out there bright and early. I had a wedding that I had to go to last night for my cousin Christina. She and David tied the knot. Congratulations.
Would you go into depth a little bit, because I received some messages from you that were quite disturbing about some possible chickabee shit going on.
I'm gonna do them a favor and just leave that alone. We're not gonna talk about that on the show. But it was a good time. I bumped into some cousins of mine that are they're in San Francisco. They usually come over in the summer for a week, and this is the week that they're here. So they're here for the wedding. It was great. So my kids are actually over there now, having themselves a great old time. So while I'm there, I'm like, okay, we're sitting at the table. My folks are at this table. I've got a bunch of family around, and I'm setting my alarm on my phone, and I'm just like, I want to remember to have this set. So I set my alarm for about 4:30, and I got up because I just wanted to make sure that all the I's were dotted, T's crossed, everything was ready to go. And I set out for our destination for today. I show up. We go to launch the boat, and the beauty of this was the intention was that because I had other people here with me to maneuver this behemoth of a kayak, I wanted to take the rudder out and attempt straightening it on my own. And that's what we did. Ultimately, we did it. The first time around, it straightened really easily. The issue we had was getting the screw. It just wasn't fitting back in the drum the way that it should. So I made the call initially to say, okay, screw it. You know what I'm doing? I'm going to keep this screw. We'll keep the drum off to the side. I'm going to tape the screw to the rudder itself, leave the rudder in my truck, and then I'll deal with this when I've got like a good setting and I'm not at a boat launch, and I can deal with it that way. Thinking that I was just going to use my pedal drive to propel myself and then use my paddle to drop in and maneuver my steering. That sucked. It was terrible. The body of water where we were at. There's two large basins with a large flat in between that connects the two. And I was really excited to get from basically work that entire flat because there was docks and all kinds of stuff I wanted to hit. I called Tim and I told him, I was like, man, look, I think I'm just going to bounce after I'm done fishing this one spot. I'm like, this is brutal. And he says, why don't I come over? We'll give it one more try. And we tried something different where basically we put the boat up on the ramp, just pulled it just out of the water, and then lifted the back end up, dropped the rudder through because the rudder would sit on the bottom, and then lined up with the drum, popped the screw back in. We got it. That was the game changer. Relaunched the boats. We headed out down this other way, and in fact, we actually followed the bank heading toward this other flat, and we had a great time. It was awesome. Mike, who I think I'm going to refer to Mike as as the one who tickles the ditch pickles from here on out. I think that's the best wording. Mike got on a few yellow perch, some good ones, fishing a crankbait. We did pretty well with them. I know that Tim had connected, I don't know if he caught all largemouth or if he caught some multi-species too. He might have caught a rock bass in there. And we ended up over in this one spot where there was a bunch of docks. It was really, really nice. A lot of like swimming platforms and stuff. And my mission was shade. That's what I was looking for, like where the sun was during that time of day. It was all about, for me, just finding the shade, and that's where I hooked up with all my fish, way in the shade or under the docks. And I actually practiced a technique today that I haven't really had any confidence in, and it was skipping with a bait caster. Skipping with a spinning combo is much easier to me. I have no issues with that whatsoever. But man, I had a few skips in there that were good. I had a couple of blowups, for some backlashes doing it, but it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good about this. So it was nice. Caught one dink bass that just choked this hook. Got blood all over my kayak.
Ooh,
yeah,
yucky.
It was shitty. Released him real quick, and then went over to this other cove. Same thing. Found another shady spot that I was working, and I caught a 13. It would have been a contender in that tournament. Actually, it would have been all right. Yeah. And this fish fought like hell. Caught him, hooked him right in the snoot. I mean, it was just awesome. Released him, and then I caught the prettiest freaking panfish I've seen in a long time, with like real vibrant blues and oranges, like just all over the place. Beautiful. And this hit the same bait. I was throwing a Bass Pro Sticko. Green pumpkin, 5-inch. Well, I think they do like 5 3/8 inch or something like that. Like they're a little bit longer.
Love the stickos.
Yeah.
It's not the only stickworm I use, but mainly I would say 90% of my stickworms are the Bass Pro Stickos.
Yeah. I mean, I like to say that I don't have my favorites. I do. I'll say that the stickos kind of becoming in that wheelhouse. They
make gigantic bags of them. They have them in a billion colors.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I bought. In fact, it was like the green pumpkin. I bought a bag of 30 for like $11. It was great.
They have. The biggest thing is they have a particular color that I don't know anybody else uses or makes, and I jump all over it.
Huh.
So, yeah,
it was pretty good. I was messing around a little bit with a new app on my phone as well, and it seemed pretty good. It really did. I mean, it was a lot of the stuff that it was telling me, I was kind of like were decisions that I would have made on my own. But it was interesting though, man, because I got bit on everything I threw, with the exception of the walking bait I was throwing. I didn't get hit on any. No, actually, I take that back. The buzz toad either. I didn't get hit on any of that stuff. But hey, I'm not worried about. Was definitely able to go and figure them out. So that's really all that mattered to me. Had a good time. We fished till about like noon or so. The wreck boat traffic was ridiculous, and we'll talk about some of this stuff in FTG. But oh my god, man,
We sure will.
I'll tell you what, I got real spoiled. Like I was thinking about it just yesterday, actually, about how I've really kind of limited myself this year. I was like, man, I'm looking back at my catches, and I'm like, I haven't been catching quality at all. I've been doing pretty regularly with catching to trip ratio. Like I'm getting skunked periodically, but not nearly as often as some other times. But I've really kind of limited myself with like where I'm fishing. Like the one thing about the body of water I've been focusing on, the one sort of like shining star has been that bowfin. But now I've caught that bowfin, and now I'm kind of like, all right, now this is just a convenience place,
Yep.
It did its job, so now I'm looking to kind of get around and do a little bit of pond hopping with the kayak and get out and try some new water. But the one thing that this pond has done, it's spoiled me because there's no there's no boats getting on plane in this pond that I go to. It's just so small,
Yeah.
You'll see a bass boat in there, but I don't even think that they idle around. I think everything they're doing is with trolling motors because it's that small.
Yep.
There was totally the opposite situation. We had at least two boats that were running around, lugging people around on tubes. And, Tim had made a good point. He was like, he goes, that's the thing. It's like, they're not like doing anything wrong necessarily. Like we're over there, we're over here fishing in this cove, but they're chopping up the water and they're making it kind of a pain in the ass. And with this one specific spot that I was thinking of, where there was all kinds of docks all over the place, it was actually a little bit tight, like to maneuver with how close some of these docks and swim platforms were. He's like, it's not like they're doing anything wrong necessarily, but I took a head count while I was out there. There were the three of us on kayaks, but there were at least another four that I had counted that had been out there. And I'm just like, when you've got that amount of small vessels on a boat, like, it might be a good idea to like give as much space as possible.
Nope.
I mean,
Doesn't work that way.
I'm not expecting that they would, obviously, because let's be honest, I'm pretty sure that folks that are buying those boats are buying them not for recreational enjoyment, but to somehow scratch an itch that they need deep down in their own ego or something. I don't know,
We'll talk about that more when we get to FTG.
Yeah.
I'll have plenty to say about what happened to me this weekend. But
Yeah, it was nuts. So that was my week fishing wise. Worked a lot this week. I had a meeting with the next bride and groom I'm working with, Scott and Steph, and I mentioned them because they are listeners to Jigs and Bigs. At least Scott is. So that's pretty cool. Looking forward to this wedding. In fact, I may actually end up officiating for this sucker too.
that's awesome.
It's possible. Yeah, there's potential. There might be an issue with their officiant, and she wants to have a backup plan. So we're going to talk about that and get all things together. So, but dude, it's just been crazy, So I'm glad the water's not completely effed. Is pretty much my takeaway from this morning. Good times. Yeah, had a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Good stuff.
Moving on, we've got next week coming up.
Yeah, we do have next week coming up.
Next week's going to be fucking fun.
It is.
That's going to be in the salt. We have our saltwater Sherpa Nelson guiding us.
Yep.
And it's not a tournament, so there's no pressure. It's just take pictures of fish.
Having fun.
Take pictures of your dick, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever we need to do.
Yeah.
And then there will be food and mirth and camping.
Merriment.
And more food. Merriment, mirth. I already have breakfast planned out, just so you're aware. We're good.
Okay.
We're good on that.
Sweet.
You've seen those videos? They just popped up about maybe a year ago. I think I first started seeing them where people will take like a wrap or a pita or a tortilla, and they'll lay it down on a plate and they'll put one single radius of a slice in there, and then they'll fold it up into shit.
Yes.
Put stuff in there.
Yep.
So I've been doing that to great effect with various, breakfast stuff. I've made sandwiches out of them. The breakfast stuff ends up being better. So we're gonna do some breakfast stuff with that. That's where
Some
I'm gonna
breakfast
origami. Yeah, breakfast origami.
I love it.
We'll have Nelson and I have a plan. So just in case worst comes to worst, we're not able to get on anything. Worst comes to worst, nobody catches any edible fish.
Yeah.
I still have those some frozen bags of triggerfish from North Carolina.
Oh, that's right.
Triggerfish pizzas.
Triggies.
Triggies.
I love that.
Oh, Nelson also has. I didn't ask where he got this from. Nelson has ground beaver. We're making beaver burgers.
Oh.
Possibly sauceless beaver pizzas.
Nothing like grinding the beaver.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is some great beaver. And for anybody who's not a patron, I just did something funny and disgusting on camera.
It's true.
And
Is it?
You should jump in on that.
Is it? Does it compare to a vanilla starfish? I'm curious. I'm not sure.
I thought you have the beaver burger and wash it down with the vanilla starfish for dessert.
Oh, maybe
No?
that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Gravy chimes in, says trying to convince the wife to let him do the EKF at Winnipesaukee. Apparently, he's looking to catch a trophy rock bass. That should be fun. We got Chris Pendergast in the house. Says that's a very good point, Nelson. He's talking about camping at the beach. Just saying, I like camping at the beach. Camping at the beach like homeless people is gonna be awesome.
Yes.
We got Chris Pendergast saying again, hell yeah, Gravy. You want me to talk to her? They're going back and forth. Some marriage counseling. I don't know what's going on here. Chris says it's going to be an amazing weekend. Then comments with this, the magic words. Peagles. Bobby, what's your order, brother? Sarah made a bunch. I like them all. You know, I am definitely down. I do like a spicy pickle. You know what I mean? Why is it spicy? Kind of pickle.
Why?
Let's see what we got. Bring beaver burgers. Nice. I love that. Nelson says he's ready. Gravy says he wants to try beaver burger. And then Sarah joins us and says, hey, how you doing, Sarah? I'm excited. I think we're going to have ourselves one hell of a time. I'm actually kind of debating maybe even just like rigging everything and then driving down ready to sleep late Friday night.
There you go.
I might do that.
I think I'm heading down either Thursday night or Saturday or Friday morning. It depends on my, schedule with my son's basketball camp and some other stuff. But before we get there, you and I have a send planned for Thursday.
Yes, we do.
We're gonna, weather permitting, we're gonna see if we can get out on the northern part of the Connecticut River. I have to get a pike and a rock bass on the board for chronic trips.
I have to get a fish over 18 inches.
There you go. See, we have
a bass over 18 inches. I will be so happy if I can do that.
We have goals.
Yeah, we do have goals. We definitely have goals. Yeah, the biggest bass I have this year is a 17-inch. That's it. There's only been one.
Dude, honestly, if we could, and there's no way, and we wouldn't have the time, but if we could get to that place I went to for the EKF tournament, that might be some fun for some smallmouth, but I'm not doing that.
I haven't caught any smallmouth this year. So
Yeah,
I mean, if we get some in the river at all, that would be great too.
Yep. Well, we'll try where we're going. We'll see what happens. Like I said, we've got a little bit of room up until Vermont, and then we can go south a little bit. But it's not going to be a brutal pedal for either of us like it was the one time you and I went out at Jigs and Bigs HQ.
Yep. Yeah, that was definitely interesting.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to wrap up the chronic trips and really put a bow on it because I don't know if we'll talk about it in the tourney section, but I'm doing okay, and I just know the competition around me. They have hungry eyes.
Oh, of course they do.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to work it out. That being said, we got 1 week left for this chronic trips, and then we got Jigs and Bigs August edition. It is back, folks. Registration is open now on Fishing Chaos.
Wide open.
Jigs and Bigs. Pardon me?
Wide open registration.
Wide, busted wide, gaping.
You might. I was going to say you might even say that.
Gaping, vanilla starfish style. Jesus. Sorry.
Artemis. God damn it.
Sorry. Get on there and register. I had two conversations about this tournament. With Gary Howes yesterday, and with a couple other people, and I said, this is how Jerry and I do it. And, like even in a tournament like yesterday, which is a bass tournament, my second fish of the day was a 7 3/4 inch bluegill. And I was happy about it.
Oh, yeah.
It makes bycatch so much fun. You know what I mean? Instead of just shaking it off saying, God damn it, another pickerel or another fucking bluegill or another crappie. I don't want this shit. Now it's game on. And really, this year, with that scoring change we made from the 4-3-2-1 to the just 2-1, it has really stressed going out and catching other species that are not your normal targets.
Yep.
I don't know. I am falling more and more in love with this format every tournament that we do.
Me too.
And I know this is the second one I've been back on.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. And then I had a conversation today. I went to a buddy of mine retired from the military today.
Yep.
It was his last day. He just had a quiet luncheon. A lot of people do that. Like I explained to the guys that we were at the luncheon with today, I said, listen, when I retired, I rented out a fucking hall. I had a party. I had enough of the military after 21 years. I was like, fuck it. We're going to have a party. We're going to burn the town down. I don't give a shit. Not everybody feels that way. A lot of guys have been, and gals have just, their careers are a little bit different than mine were, or they're reacting a little bit differently, and they just want to walk out quietly. And that's that. You know what I mean? No ceremony, no nothing. Different circumstances, different people. But he had a quiet luncheon today, and we talked a little bit about it. And one of the guys that he hangs out with used to fish a lot of big boat events.
Yeah.
And I talked with him a little bit today, and usually whenever we're around each other, we get into fishing talk. And I said, well, I'm involved. I'm a director for 2 of these tournaments for Jigs and Bigs and Chronic Trips. And I said, it's multi-species. So his eyes lit up when I explained, like, you get that pickerel and you're like, fucking pickerel. I'm so sick of it. I'm sick of that crappie. I said, now they matter. It's all. I said, think of all the bycatch you've had over the years. And now you can put it on a board, measure it, send it in. I don't care where you fish, as long as it's in the U.S. and public, and you can do that.
Yeah, of course.
And he got very interested in it. So, I mean, the scavenger hunt aspect of these tournaments, you do not have to catch the biggest fish in every category.
No, exactly.
You just got to catch a lot of different species, and you'll do fine. So, when it comes down to it, myself and Jerry and Scott Rhodes and Brant Rowland, we do well at these things. I'm not fishing any more than any of them. They're fishing a lot more than I am.
Yeah.
I just get a lot of bycatch.
Yeah, exactly.
All you have to do. I'm not targeting. I mean, like this week, I'm targeting pike and rock bass.
Yeah.
Which is just stupid. I don't know why I'm doing that, but it's Chronic Trips, baby. You got to do it.
You kind of take a gamble on those baits that maybe they react to, specifically, or you go in those areas. I mean, that's it. But at the end of the day, you're just going fishing.
That's it. I'm doing what I'm doing. So this is exciting. We're lining up the next Jigs and Bigs. Everyone jump in on it if you can. It's been a blast.
It's going to be fun.
A blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. The more people we have, the more payouts. And
I'm hoping to get more than 2 points.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that'll be a win. If I get 3 points, I'd be like, sweet.
Oh, you are going to jump in on this one?
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Excellent.
Why not?
I do have one thing I want to really kind of bring in. I know you and I talked. You got a phone call the minute I found this thing at my vacation. I'm not going to say what or where.
Yes.
You and I have some new uniforms that we'll be debuting at some point or another. But this design also has stickers with it.
It does.
And I got a handful of them, and I think I'll work those into some prizes or sticker packs or something. We can do something fun with it for the next tournament.
Yeah, why not? And then we got Hoodlum Fest coming up soon too. That's coming up with the end of August, I think.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the dates on that.
Yep.
We'll talk about that when we get more info from Bill.
So, speaking of hoodlums,
yep,
had a conversation with the one and only Cody, Lockwood Fishing.
How is he doing?
He's doing good. He's gotten out of his surgery. It sounded like pretty hairy, man. He told me about that, man. Like, for those that aren't aware, like, Cody's had some issues with some kidney stones, which is like a major fear of mine. Like, I never want to feel pain like that in my life. And, man, to go through what he's had to go through, I wouldn't wish it on anybody else. But the main reason why we're talking is his new hats are out. He's got a limited supply, and it's got that cool, like, psychedelic tree logo. Yeah, very, very cool. The big patches, too. And so he and I told him, I was like, I need one of these hats. I said, you let me know how best to pay you, and we'll do it. He goes, I got a better idea. How about we do a trade? He's like, you send me a Jigs and Bigs flat brim hat, and I'll send you up one of mine. I'm like, done. Ordered it last night.
I gotta get one from him, too, then.
Yeah.
What style are they? They big flat brims?
They're flat brims, yeah. Like 7-panel flat brims. They're...
All right.
Yeah.
Where's he selling them?
I don't think he is. Just shoot him a DM. I'm not sure what his, if he's got a store going or anything like that.
I sent him a message last week just to check in, and he said he was in a lot of pain, and that was pre-surgery, so I hadn't heard anything since.
Yeah,
so.
He just got out, I think, Friday.
No, I hope he's doing better. Best wishes from us at Jigs and Bigs for Cody.
Absolutely, Cody.
The host with the most.
And I want to throw this out there. Big shout out and thank you for the invite for Russ and Mike, or for Tim and Mike, sending me out with them today. This was a whole lot of fun. I told them, I said, anytime you guys want to fish, let me know. The beauty about my life is that I've got a lot of schedule flexibility, especially during the week. So I'm all about getting out and trying new places. It's a little bit tricky because I kind of need a ramp. With my freaking boat, but that's not necessarily the worst thing. And I love a weekday send. I love it. That little bit less of a chance of being swarmed with the lake lice.
Yeah.
Like that, just a little bit less of a chance.
Tiny.
But
so
nice.
Small.
Yeah. It's going to be good. Oh, yeah, that's right. Chris chimes in here. He says Labor Day weekend for Hoodlum Fest. Labor Day.
Yep.
Yeah, this will be pretty good. And I have spoken with Bill, and there are some food items that, the losers may have to consume.
Yeah, well,
A lot of people asking about more bull balls, too.
There's been requests for bull balls?
Yeah, like some people have been like, oh, maybe we can do that again. And I'm like, man, I got to track them down, and figure it all out. But
people think that you just went to the store and bought them. There was a lot that went into that shit.
Yeah. I risked my life,
You bought those in the hood. Like, you were at gunpoint.
Oh, I love it. I friggin' love it. Awesome, man. Well, I think that about does it for this segment here. But we got good news stuff for you guys in segment 2. We got Just the Tip coming up. We're talking about efficiency on your situation, whatever it is, whether it's your kayak or you're just limited with a spot where you can, how to plan your day, really. And efficiency is what's going to help you do it. Again, we've got some... We've got some Lake Louse news. 'Tis the season. They're out in full force. You might say that the spawn is on for the lake lice in some way. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe that's what's happening. And you're just like, no, stop it. Stop it. Get help. And then, of course, we've got our tourney updates with all the action that's happened to you in full detail and a brand new segment that we are launching this week just for you guys. We're calling it the Bait of the Week, and we're going to put a spotlight on a bait each and every single show that we have had experiences with, good, bad, or otherwise. We're going to talk about it and break it down, and I think it'll be kind of interesting and fun. But much more good stuff coming up after this short message. Don't go too far, guys. We will be right back. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form content. We want to thank Old Glory Outdoors in East Brookfield, Massachusetts. Old Glory has an amazing selection of fishing tackle, including 6th Sense, Guggen Baits, X-Zone Lures, Shimano, Daiwa, Luz, 13 Fishing, Arc Rods, and many more. Use promo code Jigs and Bigs at oldgloryoutdoors.com and in-store to save yourself some money and support the show. For all your premium kayak needs, we partner with Three Bells Outfitters, located along Smith Cove in Niantic, Connecticut. Three Bells is your go-to location for kayaks and accessories from Hobie, Native, Bonafide, Jackson, Yakutak, Naqua, Boondocks, Burley Pro, and many more. Financing options are available to upgrade you and your kayak fishing experience. White glove delivery service is also available. Visit 3bellsoutfitters.com for more info, and don't forget to tell them that Jigs and Bigs sent you. When it comes to high-quality polarized sunglasses, we've partnered with Torres. They provide stylish sunglasses in a variety of frames that are light and fit comfortably on your face. The polarization cuts glare and allows you to see the whole picture, helping you identify what's below the water's surface. They have a 60-day, risk-free trial, lifetime warranty, and free shipping. Plus, you can save yourself 10% with the code JIGSandBIGS10 at checkout. Visit Torres.com to check out their selection. That's www.torege.com. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks.
Bobby and Sean now have a special presentation for us all. They'd like to give everyone just the tip.
It's disgusting when you think about it, but here we are. We're cracking jokes about Beaver Burgers and Babylon 5 and, all kinds of stuff, and getting into it about WWE legends. I mean, it's just, that's stuff that you guys are missing if you're not a jig head. You should join our little squadron of jig heads that get this show a couple days earlier because they get to be a part of the recording process and check it all out. So it's pretty awesome. They got some inside tips, and they also got some input on what's coming up later in the show. So very good. Let's get into it. Guys, this week in Just the Tip, what was it? It was just last episode. We had gone through some of the information we had received through that survey that I'd been posting, and somebody had commented saying that they were struggling with being more efficient with what they were carrying on their kayak and configuring their boat mainly for efficiency. And the issue that they were running into was that they would, streamline. They were only carrying so much stuff, and then they needed something else and they didn't have it. So it gets down to kind of a funky kind of situation. So Sean had brought this up about the idea of making this the hot topic for this week, about efficiency in your boat. And I think that, man, I'll tell you, over the last 2 years, I feel like I can weigh in a lot because I've had to deal with this with the Ascend and the limited amount of space that I could go, and my mindset initially to then now what I'm dealing with, I have much more floor space, but I still try to be as efficient as possible. So why don't you go ahead, Sean, and I'll just kind of jump in here and there.
Okay. I want to go back to when I now we've talked about this. It's people are listening to this Tuesday. If I'm lucky, like I might get through the show from last week. I still haven't finished listening to it at this point.
Yeah.
My podcast listening gets all fucked up when I'm on vacation. But there were a couple things from last week's episode that hit me, and that was one of them. When you were talking about that, like, hey, we got this survey, and we talked all about the survey. We got that comment, and it stuck with me because I was in that position too. And how did I deal with it? I've got all this stuff. How do I get in my boat? And you can't just go out and buy a bigger boat, whether it's a bass boat or a kayak,
whatever the vessel. I mean, yeah. I mean, even if you're on the bank, like, what are you going to keep doing? Buying endless backpacks?
Correct.
Even
this is every situation. And I'm going to sound like a broken record here. I did not tell you which direction I was going to go in with this.
I have a feeling. I'm curious if I'm right.
This problem was greatly reduced by my database.
Oh, well, yeah, obviously.
That was it.
Yeah.
I can't stress how much writing down what you're catching fish with and the exact color and lure model cuts down your tackle. It cuts it down so much, and you'll be more efficient. And to the point, like we talked about it during last week's show, where we talked about efficiency, and I even said you will, take a certain specific set of lures, maybe in addition to what you normally carry for a specific body of water. I don't do that anymore. Yeah. And I said I can hang with anybody in the country, I feel, in a competitive scenario with my certain amount of lures. I'm definitely in the Northeast, if not the rest of the country. And I'm not saying winning tournaments. I'm saying hanging with, giving myself an opportunity to win.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know anybody who carries less tackle than me. I don't. I carry, a small amount, but I know when to apply it, or most of the time I know when to apply it. No one's perfect. Gravy fishing is a suggestion right now. The Angler app works great for that too. Use whatever you want.
Yeah.
I found that for me, some apps had some great things, others were missing things.
Yep.
And vice versa. And it was easier for me to write things down in a database. And then I had the information that I wanted to look at, and I was able to filter it on Excel that way. But I've said it numerous times on the show. Write it down. Give yourself a couple years. Don't think about what you're doing for 2-3 years. When that third year comes around,
look at your shit.
Or going into the third year, look at it and say, what did I do year 1 and year 2? Holy shit, why have I been carrying 14 bags of 6-inch stickworms when I've only caught one fish on them? Why? Whether it's any species, and the one fish was a species you're not even targeting.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you've just dropped 5 pounds of stickworms out of your shit. It's that simple, and no one takes the time to do it. I'm the only person I know that writes down everything from the 4-inch bluegill to a 40-inch pike. I write down every fish, and I can see what I've been catching fish on, and more importantly, what I'm not catching fish on and what doesn't need to come with me. How many times have anglers gone out and said, well, I got to keep this one set of lures with me because I caught a bass with it once that was maybe 2 pounds.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you look at your database, you've got a lure with you you're not carrying anywhere near enough of it, and you catch a fish every time you go out with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Jump in here, Bobby. I again, broken record.
So what you're saying is spot on. There's one component there that you must have, and that's data. And if you're starting from right now, so that means for the next 3 years you're going to be in this situation, where you're taking whatever it is that you want and you're learning from that. I mean, it's a process. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is offer up some suggestions. The backstory to this is that, and really where it kind of comes into play is, when I started out and I was bank fishing significantly, I was going out with 2 boxes and a bait wallet. And what that is, it's just basically a little, it's a fabric sort of binder, really, and it's got pages in it that are like Ziploc bags, and you can fill them up with plastics. There's a couple of short lessons. First and foremost, take a look at the amount of time that you're going out on the water, okay? Are you going out for 2 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours? You're going to be out for multiple days. Think about what you're carrying for the amount of time that you're actually going to be fishing. Do you need 16, of this one color, or do you need 16 of every color of stick bait or paddle tail or whatever it may be? You can streamline a lot of that stuff if you do some homework in advance. And if you don't know, then you got to play it a little bit differently. So when I talk about that bait binder saves a ton, because now you're not carrying bags upon bags upon bags of all different sizes of plastics. Different paddle tails are a great example because there's different sizes, there's different colors, there's even different body shapes that act differently. You might have preferences for certain ones. Pick the ones that you can at least recall having the most success with, and put 3 in the bag. And then do a natural for clear water, do a dark and a light. Now you're talking about 9 paddle tails. You're carrying 9 soft plastics. If you can't get by a day, 5 hours of fishing, 8 hours of fishing, and not change your jig trailer like that many times, or you're losing them, there's a bigger problem. If you just look at what am I actually going to throw. The other thing is this too, is look at your boat. When I first started going out and going from when I was borrowing Sean's Ascend FS12, I would go out on that, and I would remember that big green Plano backpack I had. And it had
Big.
3,600 boxes on there and a big cavity with a zipper with plastics. And my thought was, this is going to be great. I'm going to get in the kayak and I'm going to lay this thing down right in front of me between my knees, and I have full access to everything I want to bring. And I would organize that backpack so that I had a topwater box, I had a moving bait box, basically hard baits of any sort, shit with skirts, terminal tackle, and I think there was one more. I forget what the other one was. But all this stuff was all together. The problem is it made the actual fishing and measuring fish excruciatingly cumbersome. So what I started doing there was realizing, what do I have for room? I have 2 rod holders on this entire unit, and what I'll do is I'll have the rod that I'm using in my hand at the time, and then my backup bait will be in another rod that I lay on the deck. So that worked for me. But what I did was I started using one simple box, just one waterproof box, and that's where the idea of my day box started coming, where I would have everything I need would be in the truck. I would have these money bags full of soft plastics and things that I might go to, things that I can re-up with. I would have all my entire all of the jerk baits, all of the crank baits, all of that stuff in this one box, and I would just go to the truck, and I would actually go down to the water and just look around and go like, what am I dealing with here? What's the visibility? Just get a ballpark of it. I'd go online and I'd read read-ups about like this body of water. What are the characteristics? What am I dealing with? And then I would take all these things into account when I select the baits for my day box. So my day box, I never, first off, my day box, I never count a box of terminal tackle. That's always coming with me. I'm always going to have hooks, weights, all types of fasteners, anything I could possibly need, jig heads, you name it. That's always coming out with me. But I certainly don't need 35 black and blue jigs to go out for an afternoon. I don't need that. I could take 2 or 3. Same goes with green pumpkin. Same goes with PB&J. Those are my strength colors. Those are the ones that I like. Now, what you're not going to see a lot in my day box for when I'm fishing locally, you're not going to see a ton of white. Mainly because like the bodies of water I fish, we don't have shad. So I fish a lot of bluegill based patterns a lot of the time. That doesn't necessarily mean I don't factor some of this shit in here periodically, and I don't have the baits to back it up if I need them. But if I do, I'll go back to that box. So now what I've done is, because I've had the chance to really kind of grow a little bit with the Titan 13.5, is I've realized something is that what I thought was a big pain in the ass, reaching behind me and grabbing items that I might need, I started to get over that a little bit. So the idea of a crate or a bag of sorts with some rod holders is going to be your friend. Figure out a way to configure it to where you can safely turn around and get the items that you need. I was out fishing with Josh Scaife, and I was throwing big wake baits and crawlers, and I wasn't sure what the pattern was for this, so I had my box of all those baits in my bag behind me. I would change them out as I needed to, and it worked out well. The idea is to make it take down as small as a footprint as you can, but make it as organized as you can too. So getting a crate together with a couple of boxes, even if you just look at them as like hard baits, top water, jigs, start there. And then, obviously you're going to need a terminal tackle box. And what's interesting is this. I store my day box and my terminal tackle box and my bait binder under my seat, so I can access them immediately with no issues. In fact, I even keep all of my dips and scents and dyes and all that stuff, all my tools, it's all attached right to my seat, with all those amazing leashes that I got from Sarah Pendergast. Yeah, all those. It's all safe. So it's all right there. I keep my cutters and my braid shears on a lanyard around my neck so that they're always right there. So, if, when I was using my old PFD and I had all those pockets and stuff, I'd leave it all in there. It was awesome. So that's the idea, is like make the most of what you have, but realize that you don't have to bring a million of everything. In fact, realize also that like if you're having a day and you're like, oh shit, I do need that 4th or 5th green pumpkin paddle tail, go back to the truck and get it. When you run out, go and re-up and keep your stuff there and think about it like in a more of a modular setting. And I think long term you'll see it'll start to feel pretty good. I want to jump into some of these comments here. I want to see what's going on here. There's people talking about Angler app.
Start with the Angler app. So I was going to say start with the Nelson comment because that's the biggest. I mean, look, what we've done here is I offered a long-term solution to this problem, and you offered a short-term. Both can be applied at the same time.
And they should be applied at the same time, for sure.
They should. The issue is, every other aspect of life, people will watch every dime. They'll count every penny.
Yep.
They'll not, it's not like anybody just buy stock or invest in their 401k or any shit like that and doesn't pay attention. But this is a way of coming at fishing that not only shows you your strengths, but it'll save you money in the long run. Mm-hmm. It'll save you time. Yeah. It'll save you money. And based on this question that we got, or the comment we got in the poll, it'll save you boat space. Yeah. It's coming at fishing from reverse. You know what I mean? Yeah. Instead of like, I'm going to go out and just buy everything and fucking I'll figure out what works. And if I remember it, it's great. And if I don't, it's great. I'm going to monitor myself and I'm going to honestly evaluate what my data is telling me.
And
the thing is, go ahead.
There's one thing, and you may not. This is comes from the interview from last week. Brad Brown. I asked him in the question, one of the interview questions, like, what's a piece of advice you would give an angler that was, asking you for like some type of a tip? What would you offer up? Maybe somebody who's new to it. And I love what he said. He goes, what I would recommend is don't buy everything. Pick a presentation that you just believe in. Something that you think you can get behind. So maybe it's just, hey, soft plastics. I'm going to put together, a couple of different soft plastics, a stick bait, a ribbon tail, a grub, some classic stuff, and the terminal tackle that goes with it. Keep the cost down and just fish that. Then when you build up enough confidence where you're like, I got this, I know this, this is where my comfort zone is. Then you get into the world where you can dive in and get a little bit more experimental with stuff and pick up something else. You're like, okay, so hey, maybe now I want to work on jerk baits. I just want to give them a try. So I'll pick a white one, a translucent one, a natural color one, and a dark one. That's 4 jerk baits. Okay, that's all you need. You don't need one whole box for that, take those out and then, but start small and like work incrementally and build it up. And I think that there's something to be said for that for sure. But it's hard for anglers because you're right, Sean. Like I go to any tackle store for the most part, and I'm just like, okay, here's my wallet. You just put it on my tab. You know what I mean? And I sometimes even without thinking, I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. I'll go ahead and use this. Last time I was at Old Glory, I went through and I thought, okay, what do I need? What am I running short on? And I came up with a great list. A lot of it was terminal tackle, EWG hooks, flipping hooks. I needed some weights. Got all that stuff. A lot of drop shot hooks too. Like specifically, like you'll find even like if you get crazy with your terminal tackle, and you can save a ton of money there. If you're like, well, this is how I rig this, and it works well for me. Oh, it also works in this fashion, in this fashion, in this fashion. If you find multiple uses in versatility's been what I'm all about. Even with my rod and reel selections, I try to have a spectrum. I look at the whole thing as a spectrum, from the heaviest to the lightest, and just knowing what I can get away with throwing on what. And I try not to get married to this is for this one job, It's like this will work great for these things here. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that short term it's quick choices. Long term it's monitor yourself, dedication. Have the discipline to write everything down and see what you're catching fish on. And interpret the data. Yeah, I mean, it's a commitment.
Yeah, Nelson nails it. He says in here, he goes, without the discipline, none of this works. It's true. You got to be able to look at it analytically and objectively and say, oh, okay, cool. That 10 10-piece segmented swim bait that, in baby bass that my kids got me for my birthday that year hasn't caught me a fish in 4 years. Maybe we just put that on my dresser as a little keepsake.
Yeah. And I want to wrap with two things.
Yep.
Because we can beat this to death. And
Definitely.
I always sound like a broken record with this, but it's the best piece of advice I can give anyone that you're not going to hear from a lot of other people. You're just not. Number one, I had a conversation yesterday with Jerry House.
Yep.
He told me the first time he and I faced off was in a one-on-one knockout style tournament, and I beat him at a lake right near his house. I blanked him 50-something to nothing. So 3 fish, I put up 50-something inches.
Oh,
right?
wow,
That was
okay.
a lake up in the Berkshires.
Yep.
He felt confident there, and I went in there, and I smoked him. And I told him, I said, listen, the best thing I can tell you is write down everything you catch,
Yep.
everything, and filter it out whichever way you want to look at it and see what you're catching fish on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 3 or 4 years ago. Since then, he's done it. And look what he does every month in that multi-species tournament.
It's true.
And he always hangs with, you always see him in the top 5, top 10 in these big tournaments. He finished 8th at Champlain in an EKF, or in a KBF tournament.
Yep.
Like, Jerry has been the epitome of taking that advice that I give and turning it into making himself a better angler.
Yeah.
And the second point I want to make is, if you are an angler that wants to improve and get more serious about your game, all right, even if you're already at the top, write everything down.
Yeah.
And you will see things, you will discover things about your fishing game that will make you improve. It will. It will make you a more efficient angler, whether your goal is to spend less money on lures, see what you're catching fish with, whatever your goals are, writing all these things down and being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make you a better angler when you evaluate and apply what you've learned. That's all I got, man. I don't know. Like I said, we can beat this to death, and I'm always going to bring it up once every 6 months to a year just to make sure that somebody who hasn't listened gets this advice. This was our opportunity to crowbar that in. It's something as simple as, how do I save deck space?
Yeah.
Carry less.
Exactly.
Take less. How do I pick out, go ahead.
It's no, you're 100% right. Take less. You know, I mean, that's the short answer.
how do I know what to take less? What are you catching fish on? I don't know. Well, here's a way to know. And then look at all the ways that things can benefit you if you write down and consistently monitor what you're doing on the water, So that's all I got. You ready to get angry? Because I'm really ready to get angry now.
Oh, I'm ready.
Put that guy. Put that guy. Put that guy.
We mentioned it already that it is truly the season for the Lake Lice to be making its presence known on freshwater bodies of water all over the place. And whether we're talking about just ridiculously oversized boats lugging around, vacationers, recreators at high speeds, or, a jet ski just ripping an awesome jump dude or whatever, or, whatever the situation may be. I think it's probably safe to say that the majority of our listening audience has felt the pain of dealing with recreational water enthusiasts, and this week has seen a number of reports about jet ski incidents and ridiculousness, and a lot of it comes with the heat. It's hot out. People want to be out on the water. They want to try to keep cool as much as possible. Lots of times when people are doing that, they might be having a couple of twisted teas and getting a little crazy. And in doing so, sometimes the jackassery becomes apparent.
Bobby, I just fired up the Sea-Doo. Throw me a White Claw.
It's that mentality. Yeah. So Sean, you have a very specific situation that you're going to go over. Why don't you go ahead and walk us through it?
I do not yell. I do not engage with the lake louse that is out of line. I give cold shoulders. I will look the other way if somebody comes too close or does something I don't like. Saturday, I opened my mouth.
Yep.
Saturday, I opened my mouth, and a steady stream of obscenities hurled forth. And it wasn't even anything I haven't seen before, but it happened twice. And the second time was when I lost my shit. Towards the end of the day. Now, I should say this. Some point in the middle of the day, around 11 o'clock, noon, have you noticed the amount of elderly jet skiers there are out there now?
You know, it's funny you say that. I thought it was just me, but I've seen, I don't really know why.
It used to be something that was kind of relegated to teenagers and just kind of left it alone. Like, okay, crazy kids, that's what they do, right? And the amount of jet skiers I've seen that make you and I look like the young pups is kind of staggering over the past 2 years. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? A lot of them have the obnoxious... God, I'm sounding old and I'm talking about fucking people older than us.
I know.
A lot of them now have the ones with the speakers on there and it's just obnoxious.
My favorite.
They're the best. Anyways, at somewhere around noon, a jet skier got on the lake. I was not in the middle of the lake, but I was not in the... I was somewhere between the middle and the shore, and I was fishing deeper water. And there was another kayaker that I don't think was in the tournament with us, maybe about 50 to 60. I was giving him 50 to 60 yards of space, just because that's what I do. And this motherfucker on the jet ski ripped all the way down the lake. Older guy, no PFD, shirtless, a shock of red hair. Fantastic. Ripped right in between us. And then hooked around and went around the kid in the other kayak. Mm-hmm. And I'm just staring at him like, oh, I want to say something. I'm not going to say anything. The ski's out of here. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be I'm going to take the high road here.
Yeah.
About half an hour later, this guy comes back. I hear the jet ski again. He's now got what appears to be his granddaughter on the front of it. She was thankfully wearing a PFD. I was generally in the same area, at least the same distance from the shore. He ripped behind me on the shore and then cut in between us. That's when I started running my mouth. Fuck you, you motherfucker. I dropped 18 F-bombs.
Good for you.
In 6 seconds. And I know his granddaughter was there. I was hoping the engines would drown out me. She didn't look back. He didn't look back, so I'm guessing he didn't hear me. But, oh my God. I was so... 50 to 60 yards in between us, and this idiot ripped right in between, like we were fucking buoys.
Yeah. Insane.
You know?
Insane.
So I really had an issue with that. I give distance to other kayakers to maintain safety and to not interfere with anybody's fishing. Interfering with anybody's fishing is obviously secondary, but this motherfucker went right in between us, hooked right around me, went right through, and I was livid. Yeah. So completely fuck that guy. I told him that. Fuck you 1,000 times in 6 seconds. I was so livid.
I think some of the local residents on that lake were able to hear you say, I'm going to make you Jigs and Bigs famous, motherfucker.
I think all of them heard it because that lake wasn't that big. I mean, in comparison, there was actually a pontoon boat out there that had a wreck boat. It wasn't like one of those fancy Dan water skiing boats that have the big fucking almost looks like a spoiler. I know it's a tow bar of some sort. You know what I mean?
Yep.
With the speakers on. It wasn't that fancy, Dan. It was definitely a wreck boat. You could do it was like an all-purpose one. You could do anything you wanted with it. Those two were actually strapped together and drifting with the wind. So it was annoying, but not dangerous.
Yeah, it wasn't. There wasn't the potential for something to go wrong.
This guy was a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah,
and I'm
livid.
Sucks. And I'm sure he probably lives on the lake. He's like, oh, it's my lake. Well, guess what, asshole? It's public, and my fucking tax dollars are probably paying for the ramp in some way, shape, or form, just like everyone else in the state.
Yep.
How about you don't be a fucking piece of shit and put people in danger when you're zipping around in your fucking crotch rocket? Fish in the Sticks is asking right now, was he in jorts? I don't remember because I only saw red, and it's very possible. It would be fitting. Very, very fitting.
So to celebrate this week's FTG, I just want to mention Nick Ringard had sent over. He tagged us in his story on Instagram with a situation that he got video proof of. So I shared this, and I decided what I was going to do is I made a highlight reel on the Jigs and Bigs Instagram. So if you go to Jigs and Bigs right now, this will stay there, that story. You can go ahead and take a look at it. It's called Lake Lice. See what Nick was dealing with. There's 2 segments there. You can see it kind of in the background, and then watch how close in the second one this guy gets. It's a little unnerving. It's a little ridiculous. But, yeah, it's just, the level, you know what it is? It's any responsibility that these folks might have when they're off the water immediately, falls out the side of their ear, and they're just done. They can't make a decision in a responsible fashion at all about what they're doing on the water, and it blows my mind. It's crazy. In fact...
In the second video, I'm looking at that guy Rip By right now.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say gentleman. The piece of shit on our lake.
The piss cup. Yeah.
Easily closer, probably half the distance is how close this guy was. So you see in this, I don't know if that's Dan Johnson that Nick's out fishing with.
Yep.
But it would be the equivalent of someone passing in between them. That's how close this fucking guy was. That's why I got upset.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't care if people go on jet skis. Go out. Remember I described a couple weeks ago when I was in North Carolina, I went out in that salt bay.
Yep.
And there was actually a fucking penned up corral of jet skis, and a jet ski lifeguard came over and said, "What are you doing over here?" Saying hey, basically, this is Thunderdome. 2-man enter, 1-man leave. Get
exactly.
the fuck out.
Yep.
I was like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be here. I know that, but I couldn't navigate through the weeds. This is not the case.
Yeah.
This is absolutely not the case. I don't know, and no one will care. It doesn't.
That's the thing.
Matter.
They just whatever, man. Hey,
And I should
bitch don't kill my vibe.
I should make mention. I was driving. I'm trying to remember where I was driving. I've done so much driving over the past fucking 3 or 4 weeks that I have no idea where I was. But I came upon an oddly packed cargo on a flatbed tractor trailer. Right?
Uh-huh.
I didn't tell you this. I've been holding this one for a little while. The cargo was wrapped up, and it had what looked to be some sort of a anti-weather cover, almost like a large grill cover.
Okay.
It had 2 giant lumps. There were 3 separate packages. Each package had a lump, 2 lumps in it. So there were obviously 2 items in there, and they were large. And the side of this, shall we call it grill cover, said Sea-Doo.
Oh, fuck.
Can I tell you, I'm a rational human being.
Yep.
I do not condone or want to, perpetrate any violence on my fellow Americans.
Mm-hmm.
I had this flash in my head of running the guy off the road.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to do it real quick safely so that he would be fine and his cargo would never see water.
Yeah, exactly. How could I stop this abomination from happening? How can I save somebody else's, experience on the water?
It was a glimpse of insanity, possibly clarity. I don't know what it was, but
definitely
crossed my mind. We're good now. But yeah, this was a shit show. It's I'll tell you what, we have evergreen content for the rest of the time we do this show.
Oh yeah.
In the summers, just hey, what did fucking some idiot do this weekend on a jet ski?
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know if you've noticed it locally in Western Mass. There is, and I've seen ads online here and there, but I've also seen them just hanging up at intersections. Yep. Rent a party boat or jet ski. Call such and such. And that's a terrible idea. Because
prepare your starfish.
Yeah.
Rent a jet ski.
Yeah, basically, it's a terrible idea to rent those out to and I've looked at the websites and stuff, and I've looked at the policies, and judging by the behavior of folks that are out there on these, they're not following the policies of the rental at all. If they, you know what I'm saying? I mean, my God.
Can we move on? I just don't want. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done with them, and we've got another month plus if the heat continues.
I know.
We'll have another 2 months of people on fucking jet skis being stupid.
I know it's not.
We're almost in August.
We're just about there. Are you ready to talk tournaments?
Yeah, this will be a nice palate cleanser, and then we'll get to the new stuff.
I love it.
I am, Bobby. While I'm looking up the stats and the figures, the facts and figures of these past two tournaments,
The numbers.
the numbers. All right. First off, I want to talk about we already brought it up in the hot topic, but Jigs and Bigs, August, open for registration. Please go to Fishing Chaos. Download the Fishing Chaos app. Type in what do we got? We can type in Jigs, right? Jigs and Bigs.
Yeah, Jigs and Bigs. Yeah, just search Jigs and Bigs. You'll see it.
Get on there. While you can register up till August 15th, like if you want to really give yourself a better shot at being competitive and getting in on, I mean, look, we got Jerry Multihouse, probably Brant Rowland in this. Scott Rhodes will be in this, myself. We get out and fish, and usually that first day, Jerry knocks in that first to 100, or Brant does, one of the two. So just keep that in mind. And I had some ideas, we want to see a good mix of people winning different things. We'll have our random gifts and stuff, or prizes throughout the tournament, but I think I had some tweaks in mind for next year, little things, because everyone hits that 100 and everyone hits it in the first day.
Yeah,
maybe we get rid of the 100 and just go with the 200, 300,
2, 3, 4. Nobody's hit the 4,
whatever.
but yeah, I like that idea.
I don't know, but that's next year. We're rolling this year. We have our set plan. We're doing our thing. I want to talk really quickly about what's going on with Chronic Trips in this current tournament.
Hit me.
Again, Chronic Trips and the Jigs and Bigs, for those new listeners out there, Chronic Trips and Jigs and Bigs are both point-based tournaments, and they're really brother-sister tournaments. Chronic Trips was first, and I direct both. They're both point-based. They have the same point-based system. The difference is Jigs and Bigs is freshwater only and has a broader variety of freshwater species. Chronic Trips is salt and fresh. So we're looking at the current standings for Chronic Trips. We'll do I'll do top 5. There's a tie for 5th, okay? With 7 points and currently leading based on fucking Saturday. Currently leading in the largemouth category is Tim O'Keefe.
Yeah.
Tim has 7 points. He's tied with Eric Graves, Gravy Fishing, 7 points. They're in 5th. 4th place. Got a little helped out in his NE5 category with some fish this weekend. Nate Shagnon, 8 points. Let's get to the top 3 where there was a little shuffling and a little breathing room, believe it or not.
Oh.
3rd place, Scott Rhodes. Scott's got 12 points. 2nd place, always at the top, Jerry House, 13 points. And then this is where the little funkiness comes on. I'm in 1st. I got a little bit of breathing room because I have 1st place for the only 2 saltwater species turned in, because I did some shocking roast beef. I did some shocking.
You did some shocking.
So I got a shark and a striped bass. Neither of them are big. That shark is 14 inches long. And by the way, I didn't get into this. It's a shark, but it's actually an Atlantic spiny dogfish, which are just annoying sharks. They're not even cool.
Yeah.
But whatever. I caught the fuckers. It's a shark. It counts. The end. So that is Chronic Trips and Jigs and Bigs. Jigs and Bigs is up and running, or up open for registration. Chronic Trips. Registration closed about 9 days ago, and we're wrapping it up in a week, and then we're starting on the Jigs and Bigs. So if you're listening and you want to do this, consider this a scavenger hunt. Both of these. It does not matter if you get the biggest fish.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You get a bonus point. That's it. One person gets that lunker bonus point. It matters that you catch more species.
Yeah, it does.
That's what these tournaments are about. Get out and catch as many species as possible. Scavenger hunts. That's what these bad Larrys are. Scavenger hunts. On to MAKB West. We had our Cheshire Great Nibbler off of 22 on Saturday. And 5th place. I think did I mention all this? We'll run through it quick. I mentioned it all in the second one, but 5th place, Lou Adams, 67 inches. 4th place, Tim O'Keefe, 68 1/4. This is where, listen how tight these were. 3rd place, Nelson, 68 1/2. So 1/4 inch separated 3rd and 4th. 2nd place, myself, 70 1/2. So 2 inches separated 2nd and 3rd. And then 1st place, his first win. Get the applause ready, Mr. Roast Beef. John Medina has cracked the upper echelon. He earned himself a trophy. Congratulations, John. 71 inches. You deserve it, dude. He's been putting in some work on the water.
That's awesome. I saw his Facebook post, and I was very happy for him. That is awesome.
You know what was funny? Once I found out about that Angler of the Year, shall we call it glitch, where it shows that, I pulled into the ramp and John was pulling his boat out of the water. I said, John, nice job, man. You beat me. You won. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I fucking won, right? Yeah, I go, John, you won.
Attention. Yeah.
Like you did. Because 71 inches, you're not going to sit there and go, oh, I just won a tournament with 71
Definitely
fucking
not.
inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he did. I mean, but it's all relative. We talked about this last week with the EKF on the Connecticut River. It's always relative. Everybody's on the same waters.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's all 13 inches or it's all 15 inches. John actually spread his bag out really well. He had a 15, 2 14s, 2 13s. I mean, in comparison, I had 4 13s and a 17. You know?
Yeah.
Nelson, 15, 14, 3 13s. Tim, this is payout, 4th place, right? 20 and 3/4, 12, 12, 11, 11.
Yeah.
This was crazy. And that's the way tournaments go sometimes.
For sure.
So on the side, Tim O'Keefe obviously had the big bass with 20 and a quarter or 23/4, and then Lunker Pickerel, Ray Sparky Figueroa, 14 and a quarter, won him some money. Now I'm going to jump over to the 2 Eastern events that happened this weekend. One happened yesterday.
Yep.
Which was the Brawl for All. The Brawl for All. Jesus, that's a wrestling thing.
Catch 'em all.
Catch 'em all summer brawl. Thank you. You put all in brawl in there, and I'm all fucked up. So what I want to do first is they had the Eastern Division had an event on the Nashua River today, and I'll just do top 5 here. Chris Tai, 76 and a quarter for 5th place. 4th place was Josh Carvalho with 78 and a quarter. Kevin Amaral was 79.
Yep.
2nd place, Chris Nardi, 86 and a half. And 1st place, you've heard this name before, Ken Wood with 88 even.
Nice.
Big Bass, Ken Wood, 20 and 3/4. They were out there.
That's awesome.
Lunker Pickerel, Josh Carvalho, 16 and a half. So, usually you see pickerel lunkers in the 20s, and it wasn't there, And finally, for MAKB, I'm looking for it, Catch 'em All Summer Brawl. I mentioned, okay, so I got it in front of me. I finished in 6th place with 108 inches, which was a poor total. I mean, the fall one last year, John Ferreira won with 460.
Yeah.
Like
Those are
crazy.
big.
And then
big
I was second in that with like 360.
Yep.
So this one, I don't know if it was the weekend all over the state. I have no idea. I finished 6th. I'm only throwing this in for reference.
Yep.
With 108. Don Davis, drop shot Donnie Davis, old Triple D, 110 and a quarter with 5th place. Ryan Carr, 137 and 3/4, 4th place. 3rd was Valber Santos, 196.75. Derek Brundle, first to crack 200, 203 and a half.
Yep.
1st place, dude, Nate Shagnon, 269.75. Nice job to Nate. Big bass of the day went to Nate, 20 and a half. Nice job. Lunker Pickerel, Derek Brundle, 22 and a quarter. That was a normal size pickerel. And then the 2nd place was 13 and a half. What the fuck? Actually,
crazy.
2nd and 3rd place came from our tournament because Eric Graves had the 13 and a half and Nelson had the 12 and 12 and 3/4. So you never know, dude. You never know. You never know, dude.
You never know.
So that is all I got for tournament stuff. We have what would have been the trifecta that has turned pretty much into a party for next weekend. And then the weekend after, EKF tournament at Winnipesaukee. I'll be there. The Pendergast will be there. I'm not getting sauce. Nelson will be there. We're going to have a blast, dude. It's going to be fucking crazy. So we're going to have a good time.
Dude, it's going to be good stuff. So
yeah,
we got something brand new for you guys.
We do, and I'm going to talk a lot about this because I think I have more experience in this on this
specific bait. Well, we're going to bounce back and forth week to week, so we'll explain a little bit more what's going on. But let's go ahead and set it up the right way.
Jigs and Bigs, bait of the week.
Someone on our survey asked us to do like some bait breakdowns and kind of focus on stuff. And Sean had mentioned last episode, he was like, oh, what about like a bait of the week? And I think it's a good idea. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So,
oh, yeah.
Oh, God. So Sean has he's spoken on this specific bait in the past. I would say that this is on that like iconic level for him. Like this is a bait that he's thrown and has the utmost confidence in for when the conditions call for it. And it's pretty awesome. I've caught fish on this. I think it's a great bait. I absolutely do. Sean, take it away.
I'm going to talk a little bit about at least when I do these. All right. There's one thing I'm going to stay away from when I talk about baits.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think color, bait patterns are going to be important in this segment. I want to talk about the bait and its uses, and bait colors are up to every angler. I don't think it's important in the segment, so I'm going to leave that out. But I'm starting this week, and I'm starting off this segment with, for me, the bait that started it all. All right? I'm going to tell you the size that started it all, and I'm going to tell you where I ended up with it. The size 9 floating original Rapala was the first bait that I learned to catch bass and pickerel with, wading around in the Chicopee River from the time I was 11 years old. Everyone in the neighborhood had one. We were all anglers in the neighborhood. We all went fishing together. You know, hey, let's go to this spot on the river. Let's go to this spot. Let's try for some smallmouth today. Oh, let's go to the largemouth spot. Everyone had a small assortment of size 9 floating Rapalas because size 9 catches fucking everything. Everything. Some of the uses, some of the applications for these. Now, I've used them. I think my favorite method and most effective is like a pop and twitch. And I actually talked to you about it one day, and I described to you that this is a mirror image of how you would work a worm on the bottom, or a jig, anything, a weighted plastic on the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely.
You let it sink, and then you bounce it off the bottom. Well, if you took a mirror to that and pretended the bottom was the surface of the water, when you jerk a Rapala down, it goes down and then it floats back up, and you're kind of doing like a sawtooth edge, but it's pretty much the same thing because when you jerk a jig, it's going up at an angle and coming pretty much straight down. Gravity's going to take it right down. Just invert it and you've got a floating Rapala. So that is probably my favorite method of using it, but in the past I've used it. One of my cousins I went out fishing with, when I was like 12, 13, and he would troll them. Like floating Rapalas, bigger ones, trolling, even the jointed ones, trolling them behind the boat. I'm throwing the jointed ones in there because they're pretty much the same thing, but really, the size 9s and size 11s were the ones that got trolled behind a boat. I saw smallmouth at Quabbin destroy them, like break them, and the wire inside would be bent, like fucking completely destroy these balls.
No shit.
These balls, yeah. For a long time, I never measured it. For a long time, the biggest smallmouth I ever remember catching, up until honestly probably 2-3 years ago, was when I was in the early 90s at Quabbin Reservoir. Yeah, trolling those behind a boat. They're topwater, and I consider these lures like finesse topwater. Yeah. Aside from trolling them behind a boat, using a pop and twitch method, the twitch and rise method, they're really effective being reeled in too. They've got a lip, so they're really like any other jerkbait, except they won't suspend or sink. They're just going to go right back up to the surface. There's so much you can do with them. Yeah. And they're really, really effective in both shallow water and over weed beds. Yes. Shallow water, anything under 5 feet, smallmouth will come up and kill them, like destroy them. Yep. As a matter of fact, even trolling them that one time, I think we were trolling in like 15 or 20 feet of water, and they were still coming up and hitting them.
How deep do they dive when you're trolling them?
Well, that's affected by your line.
Yeah.
But they don't go deeper than like 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah, that's
even the bigger ones. Now I've used them as small as a size 7. So all Rapala lures, because they're European, are they give you sizes, and the sizes are all metric. It's just centimeters. Yeah. So I'll start with a size 7, which is basically, let me underline that, basically 3.5 inches. Yep. I've used up to, casting, not trolling, I've used up to the size 18s. Yeah. They're huge. They're 9-inch lures. Yep. And it's funny, the size 18s I stopped using because I was using them with the twitching method in Minnesota, figuring I get pike. I was catching 1 and 2 pound bass on them.
Yeah.
They're
Oh, yeah.
incredibly effective. And here's the nice thing about this. I'm giving you guys this tip. It's not just a tip. You're getting an extra tip on this. Floating Rapalas, nobody uses. No pros talk about them except for one, Mike Iaconelli.
Yeah.
He knows. He knows what they can do. Even a couple years ago, I guested on The Breakdown with John Ferreira.
Yep.
And it was last year. It was last year, right after the Quabog tournament, to open up the Western Division. And 2 out of my 5 keepers, I believe it was, were caught on a floating Rapala because the conditions were just right for them. When I talk about conditions being just right for the twitch thing,
Yep.
if the water's like glass, those lures go a long way. If it's early morning and there's no wind, a little bit of fog on the water, the damage that can be done with a floating Rapala is amazing, especially when the fish aren't aggressive and going after a Zaraspook.
Yeah, and that's where that, like you're saying, finesse topwater comes into play.
I love that term. I don't know anybody who uses that. I might be the originator on that. I have no fucking idea. For me, it's a finesse tactic on the topwater. And I've been using it again for 30 fucking years.
Yeah.
Almost 35 years coming up that I've always made sure that I have floating Rapalas. They've gone up in price over the years, which sucks, just like everything has. I mean, I remember getting them at the local Kmart for $5 for a size 9. And now I think they're closer to somewhere between 10 and no, they're probably closer to 10 for a size 9.
Yeah.
Over the years, using my database, coming back to that again, using my database, I found out I was catching a lot of fish on size 9s and a lot of multi-species on size 9s.
Mm-hmm.
The size started increasing and the little ones got weeded out when I went up. I was getting a mix at size 11s.
Yeah.
When I went to size 13s, it almost became exclusively a big fish lure. And I make sure I keep 13s in a couple different patterns with me at all times. One thing I will get into is the gear I use them on.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, and they're extremely light. This is not like throwing a jerkbait where you can get away with throwing them on a bait caster.
Yeah,
I don't recommend that at all. Maybe one of those like what do they call micro light bait casters now?
Yeah, the VFS ones.
I have not tried those.
Yeah,
and I would be really loath to because these lures are balsa and they're so light. What I throw mine on and have the whole time I've ever been using them is a spinning combo, a 2000 size reel, 7-foot rod, of course, 7 foot or more, newer to come into the fold for spinning rods. I mean, I remember back in the 90s, I was using 6s and 6-foot 6s.
Sure, yeah.
At the most. And now I use 7-foot medium, but this is a little different. Normally with any treble hook lures, I try to have a softer tip. I'll go with a medium tip.
Mm-hmm.
Minus, a medium heavy rod where I'm throwing fucking square bills. I have a fast action tip for that. Normally you would go with like a medium. I do not. I go with a medium fast. I like my lures to respond to any flick of the tip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't like having to really put effort into making a small movement with a lure, especially not with finesse stuff. So I actually use the same combo for floating Rapalas as I do with Ned rigs.
No, that makes absolute sense.
The difference being for the Ned rigs, I'm using 8-pound test fluorocarbon.
Yep.
And since, I tried with 8-pound test and I was losing too many floating Rapalas to things with teeth, I use 10-pound Suffix monofilament.
Yep.
And that's all I throw it with. And I actually use that setup is my jerkbait combo. So I can actually use that for heavier suspending jerkbaits.
Yep.
And I found that it's really valuable where, let's say you are throwing 110 size jerkbaits on a bait caster. It's going to get difficult throwing a 90 size if you have them.
Yeah.
This setup that I'm recommending that I use handles every fucking jerkbait, suspending or floating, and does a really good job on it. The 10-pound test might be a little bit too much for like a size 7 Rapala, floating Rapala, but it handles a size 9 and up with no problem.
Yeah.
None at all. The amount of fish I've caught on these things over the years is staggering.
Yep.
Staggering. And it's something that I always have on me for those quiet mornings or quiet days where the water's flat. It really shines during that period. And again, you can always throw them out if it's windy and just reel them back in. It'll work. There was one day I remember in early spring, I had a wind. I was fishing. I wasn't fishing from the shore. I think I beached myself where the wind was coming in, and there was a weed bed. And I remember reeling a floating Rapala over the weed bed.
Yeah.
Early spring. I'm talking mid 40s water. I must have caught 15 largemouth in an hour and a half. They couldn't lay off it.
No shit.
It was amazing. Yeah. And it's actually the same pond that you and I, earlier this summer went and experimented with Rig X on.
Yes.
That same
No
place.
shit.
I
Okay.
beached myself, had the weed bed in front of me, casted a floating Rapala, which weighs nothing, into the wind, reeled it back in. It was just bass after bass.
Yeah.
They work. And it's just a little bit of experimentation. I will mention this. One of the best tips I ever got from the old Field and Stream magazine, when I used to read it at the barber's office, or
Yep.
barbershop. He always had a Field and Stream line around. And I remember going to that tip section. Do you remember reading the old Field and Streams back in the 90s where they're like the tip section, the page was like it was almost like a different texture.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't, but it was like almost like vintage. Like you were getting this tip from a grizzled old man who
I think that
lives
was
up in
the
a
idea.
cabin and did nothing but fish for 500 years.
Exactly.
And the tip was when you tie your knot, if you're not like floating Rapalas, I don't recommend. They don't come with split rings like jerkbaits do, like suspended jerkbaits do. You tie it straight to the wire. And if you tie your knot and cinch it down at like a 45-degree angle, it actually increases the wobble on these things like tenfold. Like it's amazing. I don't know what the physics are behind it, and I don't care, but I'm going to go ahead and blow this up because nobody uses these things and no one seems to fucking care. When I get mine out of the package now, I don't tie the knot down. I actually bend the nose down, bend the wire where you tie the loop to, where you tie your knot to. I bend it down at a 45-degree angle. Never I have to adjust the knot now. Now the knot's always at 45.
Yeah.
I always have a constant wobble on these things. Other than that, I replace the hooks, usually go to red. But I don't know. I think this is a really good spotlight on this lure. I love them. I've loved them for 30 plus years. I will always have them in my tackle with me, and they are great. They are a great finesse topwater lure.
That's awesome, man.
And that's what I did this summer by Sean the Fisherman.
Yes. That's good. I mean, I knew it was only a matter of time. When this became a suggestion, I knew that we were going to have a conversation about the floating Rapala and everything that it's done. And I mean, I've thrown them. I've caught fish on them. They absolutely 100% work. I mean, I know I've said it before. I hate when people say it. They catch fish. They do catch fish. Absolutely. A floating jerkbait in general is a great solution in the right setting. It really really can be, because you're right, like over weed beds and in shallow water, it's dynamite, and it's just enough. It's just finessey enough. It's as finessey as a popper, in a lot of ways, because the way you can move it along so slowly, but it's such a unique presentation. It really
makes a lot less noise than a popper. It's even more finessey than poppers.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, not like from a noise spectrum. I'm talking more of it's just from the speed of which you would generally fish it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Based on that, like those two, like that's. I think if you were to ask somebody about finesse topwater, what's the first thing they think of? They're like, oh, well, the popper. Like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But no. I knew it was only a matter of time before we get here. So next week, I will select a bait to talk about. And we're just going to go down the line and talk about stuff, different presentations that we've got out there. Sometimes it might be a presentation where we kind of like bounce opinions off of, like, maybe I've struggled with it and Sean's, swears by it, or it's something that I'm like, nope, it's absolutely proven for me. And Sean's like, yeah, it's never worked. Who knows? So this could be a lot of fun and very, very interesting. So if there's a bait you would like us to feature, and I'm not saying that every single submission is something that we're going to do, let us know. Tell us, whether it's in a comment in here for our jig heads, or you're sending us a DM on Instagram, something like that. Yeah, we'll talk about it for sure. It's definitely one of those things. I mean, assuming, of course, that we have enough feedback. Maybe if we don't, maybe we'll bring someone in who does.
I mean, this is almost like a second Just a Tip segment, but
It
we're
really
focusing
is.
on one base.
Super focused on one specific presentation. I like it.
Really, we've just bookended segment 2 with a lot of information for people. I mean, like I said, I swear by these.
Yeah.
Again, but it's not somebody. If you guys go out and grab one of these, a size 11 or a size 13.
Yep.
When your preferred color, number one, again, I'm never going to get into colors because I just don't.
Yeah, it's your business.
The minute I say, hey, go use a Fire Tiger in the spring, somebody's going to say, well, that didn't fucking work. And
Exactly.
it was a silver one that worked. Well, yeah, I can't account for local conditions.
Yep.
I don't know what you have in your waters.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point to that. But what I can tell you is I did bring one down and I noticed that, and it wasn't a Rapala. It was another brand. I think it might have been the Academy. No, it wasn't Academy. What the fuck was it? It was a floating stick bait.
Yep.
Or floating jerk bait. And I was curious if they would work in Oklahoma because it's a whole different ecosystem where I was fishing. And I remember throwing one on a small flat. And when I say small flat, I'm talking about a fucking maybe 20 foot across stick.
Yeah.
It was just there, right? And something came up and smoked it. It had to have been a bass, could have been a catfish, but something smoked it. And I'm like, wow, that's funny. A nice floating jerkbait will even work down here where the fish seem to be pegged to the bottom underneath or near timber and whatever, and they won't leave unless some jig or plastic comes right in front of them, but they'll go after that.
That's wild.
So that dying minnow never got old. You know what I mean? The dying minnow approach, that technique never, ever gets old. And if it floats, man, I'm telling you, I've seen smallmouth, largemouth, every species will go after those things. Jerry House jumps in with number size 7 bluegills, can't resist them. You're right. If you need a bluegill in freaking chronic trips or jigs and bigs, throw a size 7 or a size 9 floating Rapala, see what happens. You know, I love them. Again, I wanted to start this segment with the lure that started me, you know, that I always associate with the start of my fishing, with the start of this passion, was with a floating Rapala. So
for sure.
Take it or leave it, folks. Give it a run.
I love it. So that's going to do segment 2, man. This is the longest second segment we've had in like ever, I think. We've really packed a lot of value in here. This is really good. I hope you guys like this. I hope it's something that works well and you guys enjoy it and get the most you can out of it. But we have to talk Underwear Academy. We have to talk Umbrella Academy after this short break. So don't go too far, guys. We got much more good stuff coming up right after this. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jighead and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jig heads and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. No interview this week for Jigs and Bigs, but again, like I said before, I mean, we understand there's a lot of people have a lot of stuff going on right now, so scheduling's kind of crazy. Summertime just in general is nuts, but when you factor in everybody trying to make the most of getting out on the water, we totally get it. We got a couple of interviews that I am waiting to schedule with some content creators. We also have some tournament anglers and some saltwater anglers as well. Actually, we have quite the diverse amount of anglers out there, like really bringing some new stuff to it, like fly fishing, saltwater, big boat tournament stuff. Like this could be really good. So I'm excited about it. Hopefully it all comes down and we're gonna have an amazing fall. That's what I'm hoping for. let's go ahead and talk about this. So Sean has been mentioning the Umbrella Academy periodically throughout the last handful of episodes, actually for quite a while now, and I have totally slept on this show, not gotten into it whatsoever. Tonight could potentially be the night, or I'm maybe just at some point this week I'm going to start taking a dive in, and we'll see what we can do. So Sean, share with us your news. What do you feel? What is it about Umbrella Academy that has you so fired up?
Everything has fucking gone wrong to these fucking people.
Yeah.
It's like the worst. It's fucking painful to watch, but that's what makes it so good.
Oh, of course.
So it's a superhero story. It's a Academy stuff similar to any X-Men story where a fucking guy has gathered, children with powers and he's teaching them doing this, doing that. They're superheroes. But an Umbrella Academy, it's so fucking dysfunctional and so many things go wrong. It's agonizing to watch, and that's what makes it brilliant. There's just great moments in it, but it's I think I got turned on to it maybe within the past year.
Yep.
One of my sons had heard about it, and he was 3 or 4 episodes into season 1, and then we watched all of season 2, and season 3 just came out a couple weeks ago. So I've been really, really high on it. I've been waiting on it because we had to get through Stranger Things, and obviously we're not watching TV when we're on vacation.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
It's just been staggered, and no, dude, I'm 4 or 5 episodes into season 3. It's phenomenal again. I don't know. There's a lot of adult themes in it too. It's a Netflix series, so
Of course.
I don't want to send out any spoilers at all. But if you're into sci-fi stuff, if you're into fucking comic book superhero-y shit, check out Umbrella Academy. It's a standalone. It was a comic book though.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about talking about this when I was driving around today doing some shit. You know, I just want to define something for some people. Okay. A graphic novel.
Yes.
Do you know what a graphic novel is?
I mean, maybe I know the general gist of what a graphic novel is.
Do you know what differentiates it from a trade paperback?
Not that I don't.
Okay. So Watchmen. We all know Watchmen, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then Watchmen was people call it a graphic novel.
It was a trade paperback.
It's a trade paperback is a collected edition of a story.
Uh-huh.
Watchmen came out in 1980. Shit, I think it was 86.
Yeah.
It was 12 issues. Or initially, it was 12 issues, and then it was collected into a trade paperback for people to read. And then trade paperbacks generally don't have the value associated with initial runs.
So the graphic novel then is basically a storyline unique to itself,
or a one shot.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So Marvel in the 80s actually had the Marvel graphic novel series.
Yep.
I think like 2 of the notable ones were the first New Mutants story, the New Mutants comic that was around in the 80s. It became X-Force in the 90s. That was their debut was in Marvel graphic novels.
Yep.
One of the most popular X-Men graphic novels that actually X-Men 2, the movie, was based off of, is a graphic novel that stood alone. It was during a period of that most well-known X-Men team that was called God Loves, Man Kills. And that was a
I remember
religious
that.
story.
I remember that.
It didn't fit in with the storylines going on
No.
at the time. They made it a graphic novel, and then the other one was The Death of Captain Marvel.
Yep.
Was a graphic novel, and that was just there was no Captain Marvel series going on at the time. It had ended.
Yeah.
And they just wrapped up his story of dying with cancer
in that graphic novel. That makes
so
sense.
a graphic novel is kind of like a one-shot, larger edition format. A trade paperback is a collection of. Could be anything. Could be graphic novels plus regular, comics that came out at a certain time.
Yeah, but it basically ties a series together.
Yes, it can be a trade paperback. Can be a fucking like 5 different series. It might be a story.
Almost
you know
it's like the box set.
Correct. Yes, it's very good, like a box set. Yes, so very similar. So, Umbrella Academy was I believe, a monthly book published by Dark Horse Comics. Has been collected into several trades. I don't know if there's any one-shots or graphic novels out there of it, but just a little education for our folks that are non-nerdy like me. So there's, whatever. But I will be reading the trade paperbacks at some point because this show has been incredible. I'm
gonna check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. But it's fucked up. It's like as soon as you think something else can't go wrong, boy,
it does.
You were wrong.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best.
Yeah.
That's why I like Breaking Bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's true. That's why I like The Sopranos. You know?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we need to do a nerdy segment about The Sopranos. Were you ever a big Sopranos fan?
No. There was a whole period of my life when my kids were young and I was working 2 jobs.
Yep.
I just completely missed out on
The Sopranos
much pop culture
was
stuff.
way earlier than that, though. You didn't have
What?
kids then. Sopranos was way earlier than that.
When did it start?
99? 98 maybe?
Okay, so I was
something like that.
So I was in the military.
You were in the military,
like,
yeah.
I had shit
Yeah.
going on. You know what I mean?
I think like the thing that, and I'll throw this out there, but the thing that does actually make The Sopranos so great is that in television history, we had never ever really seen such a villain of a character, a terrible, like antisocial person like Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
But we also see him like he really kind of brought the anti-hero to like the spotlight. And then you saw like without that, like I just saw something today, or not today, earlier in the week about how, because what was it? The actor that played Paulie passed away recently.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And there's a bunch of stuff that's coming out now. Like people are, all fired up about like, lists of like the best Paulie quotes and stuff. And he was amazing in that show. God damn, he was good. He was good in everything he did.
The most of my Sopranos, I've seen a lot of it, but it's all been clips on Facebook or Instagram because everyone puts up those like 2 or 3 minute long clips, and I'll watch those. I never watched it. When it was on HBO, right?
It was on HBO. If there was one episode that I think everybody should go and watch, because you can watch it from the beginning and watch to the end and not know anything else about what the hell's going on, I think it's called College. And the story is basically Tony is taking his daughter Meadow to, I think it's Maine, to visit a couple of schools. And they're in the country and everything. And she straight up asks him, Dad, are you in the mafia? And he jokes about it and everything and kind of like deflects it. But he's really honest about it, And she goes and parties and stuff with like some friends. And while she's out having some fun with, some of the college students that she meets on some of these tours and stuff, Tony goes and he while they're up there, he sees a guy who he's got some kind of a beef with, and ultimately he ends up killing him. And you see this weird sort of thing where like Meadow notices like there's like dirt on his shoes because he choked the guy out with like a wire. Like, I mean, it was like Tony Soprano is it's crazy because you love him. You're like, he's the, the family man and everything. Like that's the role he plays in the show. But at the same time, like he's stone cold. It's crazy. So he really, HBO did something really, really crazy when that show came out and bringing that to the masses. And it really kind of exploded things like everywhere. You didn't really see that on television before that time. So it was amazing. So more nerd shit.
Yeah.
My wife can't stand my love for The Sopranos or my love for like the mafia genre of anything. She's just like, I don't get it. I'm like, man, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Although, then again, she does also watch, these horrific tales of, like, crimes that have been done to other people, from the narrative standpoint of someone putting on their makeup. So,
yeah,
that's still, don't understand.
Awesome.
All right, let's wish them well. Guys, thank you so much for checking out the show. We appreciate you guys. Of course, thank you to our jig heads who have been here during this entire recording. We appreciate you guys so much. You're amazing. We love you. If you're interested in becoming a jig head, go to jigsandbigs.com. Join our Patreon. There's a button right there on the main screen. It's $5 a month, the subscription, but it gets you a lot of great stuff. It gets you the opportunity to get the show early, to engage with us while we're recording it, and also gets you some inside stuff as well. In fact, Sean and I were just talking about some exclusive gifts for our jig heads. If we're able to pull it off, there's something that we kind of have in mind and we hope we can pull it off. So we're thinking of you guys. Also, it gets you some extra discounts with some of our partners. So that's always a good thing. So check it out. trust me, it's worth it. It's a lot of fun. It's a good time. And if you don't love it, you can always unsubscribe anytime you want. You know what happens. With all that said, guys, this is a crazy week. If you're in the Northeast, we would love to see you come to the Three Bells event this coming weekend, the weekend of the 30th. That would be amazing to see some of you guys there. Come say hello. If you see me in the big lime green boat, pedaling my ass off, chucking around a bunch of braid and hoping to catch dinner, come say hi. I'd love to talk to you.
Sharkin.
Shocking. Oh, good Lord, my friend. All right, well, we got a busy week this week. I'm trying to get out tomorrow. You and I have an appointment for Thursday. We're going to watch the weather, make sure that happens. Friday night, I'm hoping to make another send there. Potentially might bail on that and actually sneak out late night, overnight, and drive down. We'll see. We'll see how it works. I have no idea. Folks, get out there and catch some fish. Do yourselves a favor, man. We're coming up on the end of July right now. Join our join our Jigs and Bigs tournament. That starts at August 1st. Jump on in, have a good time. I'm actually going to reach out to our last guest, Brad Brown, and see if he's interested in jumping in on this, because I think it would be a whole lot of fun. And we got a couple of other plans as well for tournaments that I think are going to be pretty amazing. So, guys, get out there, catch some fish, have a great one, enjoy yourselves. We'll see you in 7 days. And as always, like we always say,
Tits and ass, smoke some grass.